Good evening. I'm going to call to order our city council meeting for March 9th, 2026. Please, it's going to be a tough night, guys. Please rise if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call roll of the council?
Rachel Holteen.
Present.
Dan Larson.
Present.
Kathleen Martell.
Here.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Mike Okada.
Here.
Patrick Quinn.
Present, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Jenny Snell.
Present.
Susan Wood.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no minutes to approve tonight, so we'll move to approval of agenda. Do we have any changes for the agenda? Seeing none, I will go to the podium. We have 3 proclamations tonight. Let's see. We had invited Monica Duran and Brittany Pedersen here tonight to accept our Women's Month proclamation, but they couldn't make it. They are currently busy at the Capitol doing the work of the people, so we'll go ahead and just read the proclamation. Proclamation for Women's History and International Women's Day. March 26th and March 8th, 2026. Whereas Women's History is declared annually as a month that highlights the contributions of women throughout history and in contemporary society. And March 8th has been recognized across the world as International Women's Day since 1911. And whereas in March 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring Women's History Week to align with International Women's Day to commemorate the accomplishments, perspectives, and experiences of women in the United States. And whereas in November 1893, a Colorado referendum passed women's suffrage into law, making it one of the first states in the country to give women the right to vote. And whereas, while the right to vote is a common topic of study when examining women's history, there are many more issues, perspectives, and accomplishments that require investigations across history, literature, science, politics, and the arts to appreciate and understand the significant contributions of women throughout history. And whereas the 2026 Women's History Month theme established by the National Women's History Alliance is titled Lead the Change. Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, focusing on women designing blueprints for sustainable transformation in financial sustainability, community resilience, leadership succession, and intergenerational equity. And whereas women are residents, business owners, employees, elected officials, volunteers, caregivers, members of city staff, and make a difference every day in the city of Wheat Ridge, and are to be celebrated for the contributions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Corey Stites, and the City Council of Wheat Ridge formally celebrate the month of March 2026 as Women's History Month and March 8, 2026 as International Women's Day, in their witness of this 9th day, March 2026. Let me have my 3 ladies that are on council come join me, and we'll take a photo real quick. Or 4 ladies, sorry, missed you. There was 4 of you now. There used to be more. I believe we have some representatives from Lutheran, if you guys would like to join me up here. We have a proclamation for this is going to be a tough one, I said it, Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. We have Casey, Bogenschutz, thank you, Director of Oncology Service Line, and Tammy Ecker. Okay, Ecker, an oncology nurse from Intermountain. All right. Whereas colorectal cancer is a second leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States among men and women. combined. And whereas colorectal cancer is one of the few cancers that can be prevented with timely screening, 29% of eligible Coloradans are not up to date on screening. Whereas Black, Indigenous, and people of color, rural and uninsured Coloradans disproportionately lack access to colorectal cancer screenings. Whereas colorectal cancer is the first and second leading cause or cancer killer for those ages 20 to 49. And whereas Black Americans are 20% more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and about 40% more than likely to die from the disease than any other group. And whereas Hispanic and Black men in Colorado are nearly 1.5 times more likely to die from colorectal cancer. And whereas in Colorado in 2025, there were approximately 2,130 new cases and 750 deaths of colorectal cancer. And whereas the national goal established by the National Colorectal Cancer Roundtable is to strive to increase timely colorectal cancer screening rates by 80% in every community of all Americans eligible for screening. And whereas observing Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month during the month of March provides a special opportunity to increase awareness and offer education on the importance of early detection and screening of colorectal cancer. And therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Corey Stites, and the Wheat Ridge City Council hereby proclaim the month of March 2026 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, in witness thereof on this 9th day of March 2026.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening, everyone. As a volunteer for the Colorado Cancer Coalition Colorectal Cancer Task Force and a leader at Lutheran Hospital, thank you for recognizing Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month and for your continued commitment to the health of our community. Colorectal cancer remains one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths in the United States, yet it is also one of the most preventable through screening and early detection. Each year, more than 150,000 Americans are diagnosed, and due to rising diagnosis rate in younger adults, screening is now recommended beginning at 45. Lutheran Hospital has been proud to serve this community for more than 120 years. For generations, our hospital has grown alongside the community, caring for neighbors and families, and remaining deeply invested in improving local health. At Lutheran Hospital, our oncology service line is dedicated to meeting this challenge head-on. We provide comprehensive cancer care that includes prevention and screening, diagnostic services, surgical services, treatment, care coordination, and survivorship support. Our multidisciplinary teams work together to ensure patients receive timely, compassionate, and high-quality care close to home. This proclamation helps raise awareness and start important conversations and encourage our community to take action, because screening truly saves lives. As I wrap up, I want to say that awareness without action is just a feeling. So I want to leave you with a question. What's one conversation you will have because of this proclamation? Thank you.
And can I have our team, our procurement team, come join me up here? We have a proclamation for National Procurement Month. We have Miss Whitney Mugford Smith from the City of Wheat Ridge, manager, and then Kelsey Carter. Thank you for joining us today. Whereas the public procurement profession plays a significant role in the efficiency and effectiveness of both government and business. Whereas in addition to the purchase of goods and services, procurement adds value to the organization by performing such functions as executing, implementing, and administering contracts, developing strategic procurement strategies, and cultivating working relationships with suppliers and other departments within the organization. And whereas public procurement professionals that are employees of the City of Wheat Ridge and in other public and private organizations have tremendous influence on the economic conditions in the United States, with a cumulative purchasing power running over billions of dollars. And whereas the public procurement professionals in the City of Wheat Ridge recognize, support, and practice the public procurement values and guiding principles of accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency, established by the Institute for Public Procurement, NIGP, as fundamental tenets of the public procurement profession. And whereas NIGP has proclaimed the month of March as Procurement Month to further expand the awareness of the procurement professional's role to the governmental officials, the general public, business, and corporate leaders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Corey Stites, and the City Council of Wheat Ridge formally designate this month, March 2026, as National Procurement Month, and urge all community members to join the City of Wheat Ridge to recognize the dedication demonstrated by procurement management professionals with the City of Wheat Ridge in witness thereof on this 9th day of March 2026. Do you have a few words? All right.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for recognizing Procurement Month. As the leader of our procurement and contracts team, I'm proud of the work we do every day to support the city by ensuring public resources are used responsibly, fairly, and transparently. While much of our work happens behind the scenes, it plays an important role in serving our residents and supporting our city's mission. On behalf of our team, thank you for the recognition and the opportunity to serve our community.
All right. We are now to our public's right to speak portion of our meeting. Normally, people would have 3 minutes to speak because we have a couple of dozen people, it looks like, signed up. We're going to go ahead and limit public comment to 2 minutes today instead of 3 minutes. So when you come up, please introduce yourself, spell your last name for the record. Let us know whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge. And then you'll have 2 minutes to address the council on any topic not on the agenda tonight. So it looks like most of you signed up for that. I will call the person who's up, and then I'll call somebody else on deck. So if you're on deck, go ahead and please kind of make your way to the podium. That way we can keep it moving tonight. I apologize if I mess up anybody's names. I'm reading off your handwriting, and you guys have seen me read, so we'll see how it goes. All right. So first up, we have Patrick Stanley and Trevor Hopkins on deck. If you look at the clerk's desk over here, there's 3 lights. As long as the green light is going, you have plenty of time. When the yellow light comes on, you have about 30 seconds to wrap it up. And then when the red light comes on, please go ahead and wrap up your comments.
Is that on? Okay. I am Patrick Stanley. I live at 4055 Ammon Street in Wheat Ridge. And today I'd like to speak a little bit about the plans for Wilmore Davis, the site there. And, you know, we moved to Wheat Ridge in 2013. And, you know, basically the Wilmore Davis playground area and the fields have been really kind of a de facto park for the neighborhood for a long time. I was actually president of the PTA at Wilmore Davis. I was vice president for a couple of years as well. Sad to see the school go. I do understand the kind of economic reasons for that. But I guess what I want to just talk about today is, you know, we need, I think, in this neighborhood, a good, safe place for family and kids to go to. My child, all of his friends, you know, they've all had the opportunity to go hang out at the school in a safe place that we felt comfortable with letting them go and hang out in a park space. So I guess my plea is that, you know, I think I really urge leadership at the city to consider keeping this a green space. And when I say green space, I mean a significant green space that can actually function as a park. It's not just a token patch of grass. It's not, you know, the developers like to put in. It's not a drainage way that they can't use for anything else. It doesn't, you know, it's something more than just the bare minimum open space required by zoning. You know, it needs to be something, I think, that's functional for the new development that might possibly come in, the new condos that, you know, over there where the greenhouse used to be, as well as the rest of the Wheat Ridge area nearby. So there's just not really a good option for especially kids to kind of go to in the area. Anderson Park's a bit of a ways away. Otherwise, they have to cross a fairly major street to get to anything else. So again, just here to kind of urge that we still consider that with whatever the plans are, and that it needs to be there needs to be a valuable space that people can actually utilize. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Trevor Hopkins up and Parag Mahale on deck.
I'm going to be talking about the Wilmore Davis development. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Trevor Hopkins, Hopkins. I live at 7859 West 42nd Avenue in Wheat Ridge. Thank you for giving us the time to speak tonight. So I'm here to encourage the city to work with Jefferson County Public Schools to preserve the land of Wilmore Davis Elementary School as a public park rather than allowing it to become another housing development. I think that's going to be a lot of our comments tonight. For years, this property has functioned as informal park for the surrounding neighborhood. Families walk their dogs there, kids play there, and neighbors use the open space to gather and connect, which is kind of how I found out about this meeting tonight. Even though it hasn't officially been designated as a park, the community has already demonstrated how valuable this green space is. Another important point is that there is currently no park within this portion of the community. That leaves a large portion of this neighborhood without easy access to nearby public green space for families, children, and residents. At the same time, this part of Wheat Ridge is already experiencing significant housing growth. Just a short distance away near 44th and Kipling, the development known as Stack at Wheat Ridge is currently under construction and will bring 255 new residential units to the area. In addition to that, from my understanding, the city has recently approved housing development on the Lutheran Medical Center campus, which will additionally bring more residents into this part of the community. Growth is a part of a healthy and evolving city, and most residents understand that housing is needed, but growth should be balanced. As we add density and welcome new neighbors, we should also make sure that we are preserving the space that makes neighborhoods livable. Parks are not just amenities, they are essential to community infrastructure. They support physical and mental health, give children safe places to play, and create shared spaces where neighbors build stronger connections. Right now, the property is owned by Jefferson County Public Schools, which means there is still an opportunity for the city of Wheat Ridge to work with the district to explore options that preserve this land for the public use. Opportunities
Thank you.
like this are rare. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Parag Mahale up and Brooks Cannon on deck.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. My name is Parag Mahale, last name Mahale, and I reside at 7890 West 43rd Place. And I'm here today to ask the Council to consider preserving the open field next to Wilmore Davis Elementary School. This field is often unofficially referred to as the dog park, but that label really understates what it actually means to the neighborhood. Most afternoons you'll see young kids playing basketball, children on the playground, parents teaching the kids how to fly kites, throw a baseball, mothers sit nearby talking to the children play. It's one of the few places in a neighborhood where people actually gather casually and across generations. This space is already functioning as a community infrastructure. Research consistently shows that neighborhood green spaces play an important role in mental health and social well-being, including studies supported by NIH showing that children who grow up near accessible green spaces experience low levels of anxiety and depression. These spaces also provide measurable environmental benefits. The EPA reports that park and vegetated areas can lower the temperature by 2 to 7 degrees comparing to the surrounding built environments, helping reduce the urban heat island effect, and that becomes increasingly important as summer gets hotter. Open land also functions as natural stormwater infrastructure, which is also very important. Approving dense redevelopment here may also set a precedent on a similar redevelopment across surrounding neighborhoods, which unfortunately we already see happening. Once that pattern begins to change, it can be very difficult to preserve the character and livability that drew residents here in the first place. There are many community-centered alternatives that could be considered. One possibility would be a new or expanded branch of the Jefferson County Public Library System. A current Wheat Ridge library is very small and lacks adequate meeting and programming space. In last month's City Council, there were several possibilities discussed, like repurposing the building as an arts and cultural center, which also includes makerspace, community classrooms, or
Thank you.
meeting facilities for neighborhood organization. Expansion of the Happiness Gardens can also be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brooks Cannon up and Lindsay Lynch on deck.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for having us here. Brooks Cannon, last name Cannon. Also current board member of the Yarrow Gardens Metro District and the West Ridge community. I come to you here tonight, similar to the individuals speaking before me, to pose a question to you. What is the easy thing to do, and what is the logical thing to do with the Wilmore Davis property? As the individuals have spoke before me for years, prior to me even moving into the community, the Wilmore Davis School served as an anchor for the community. I ask you to take that in mind. An anchor for the community that despite the school now being closed, if we rid this property and further develop it, the community lacks an anchor. As the individuals before me have stated, this is more than just a vacant school. It's a gathering place. As I look out to this crowd tonight, many of these individuals I know, the reason why I'm here tonight is because we gather at that property, and it was brought to my attention at that property with neighbors and friends to come here to discuss the development of that property. Again, as stated, there is plenty of development occurring in Wheat Ridge right now. We don't need more townhomes. We don't need more residential homes. We have plenty of that. The neighborhood and the community severely lacks green space. Again, this is an easy, accessible point to everyone in the community without having to cross Wadsworth or walk down the heavily trafficked 44th Street. I would implore you to consider working with the Jefferson County City Council to keep this as a park or a green space in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We need to,
I'd like to remind everybody that there's no applauding after people speak out of a courtesy. Thank you.
thank you. Lindsay Lynch and Mike Moore on deck.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Lynch. Last name is spelled Lynch, and I live in the Westridge Townhomes. I'd also like to advocate for keeping the property largely as open community space. The school itself could remain a school if that's what the community needs, as so many young families grow. But what really feels especially valuable is the open space around it, as Brooks and so many people just shared. It has become a place where neighbors naturally gather, where our dogs run, kids play, people connect with each other and with the outdoors. Many families in this neighborhood have kids who are growing up, and spaces like this help keep the community connected across generations. The build of our townhome community has already caused dismay in the surrounding neighborhood, and not to mention the dismay of the exorbitant property taxes. With property taxes already extremely high and far above the state average due to the Metro District mill levy, preserving the space in a way that doesn't add major redundant housing development also feels financially mindful for residents who already contribute so much financially and socially. Overall, it's a meaningful asset for the neighborhood, and I hope that the community connection and access to outdoor space are kept at the center of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike Moore up and Aaron Meyer on deck.
Mike Moore, Moore, address 2835 Otis Court, Wheat Ridge, 80214. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mike Moore. I'm a longtime Wheat Ridge resident. I live nearby. I walk these neighborhoods regularly. And like many people here, I care deeply about the long-term character of our city. I'm here to strongly support converting the former Wilmore Davis Elementary site into a public park, green space, and dog-friendly area. This property presents a rare opportunity for City Council. Large, centrally located parcels like this almost never become available again once they're developed. The decision you make now will shape this neighborhood and Wheat Ridge as a whole for decades. From a community perspective, parks are essential infrastructure. They promote physical and mental health, provide safe places for kids to play, give seniors walkable destinations, and create natural gathering spaces where neighbors actually get to know each other. As someone who spends time outdoors in Wheat Ridge every week, I can tell you that these spaces matter, especially ones people can reach on foot without crossing major intersections. A dog park component is also a practical and thoughtful addition. Wheat Ridge has many responsible dog owners, but limited off-leash options. A designated dog area reduces conflict under other parks, encourages responsible use, and becomes a surprisingly strong community builder. Some of the best neighborhood conversations I've had happened while at a dog park. From a city planning standpoint, this option aligns well with Wheat Ridge's values. Green space supports a neighborhood stability, protects property values, and provides benefits that private development simply cannot duplicate. It's a long-term investment in quality of life, not a short-term gain. There's also something meaningful about preserving this site for public use. Wilmore Davis served generations of Wheat Ridge families as a school. Turning it into a park allows it to continue serving the community, just in a different, enduring way. City Council has the chance to choose something permanent, inclusive, and broadly beneficial. I respectfully urge you to support making the Wilmore Davis site a park, green space, and dog park as an asset that reflects the best of Wheat Ridge. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. We have Aaron Meyer up and Greg Watso on deck.
Hi there. Who likes public speaking? Not me. All right, let me get my glasses. Okay, here to talk about Wilmore Davis, like a lot of others. If you haven't been there, it's a really special place and a special part of Wheat Ridge. We have a wonderful opportunity here to mold the future of Wheat Ridge and do something good for our earth as well. You're going to hear, as all of us are saying and wanting, and we really feel it's not a want, it's a need. We need to keep this large, open, green space just that. No need for more townhomes or more development. Just across the way at the old Lutheran campus, we have additional housing coming and other things. I also want to say just the development and the townhomes, that idea feels, forgive me, a little trite. We elected you all based on your experience and your qualifications, but we also believe you will do good for our city, and that's why we're all here. So please hear us. Let's be logical, let's be creative, and let's be who we believe you all are. You have the ability to do this, and the time is now. I have a couple ideas just to start the juices flowing. Keeping a large portion for the playground. Those basketball courts were refurbished recently. The play areas are also new and updated. They also serve different age groups, which is really special. And one of the areas is ADA compliant. It's a large lot of green, so I do think there's space for a dog area. Whether you like it or not, there is a need. There are dozens and dozens of neighbors that go there. Like some of you all have said, it's a gathering place. Neighbors have become friends there, and our dogs are part of that. I lived 100 feet away from there for several years, and I've walked that several block radius for many years as well. So I know a lot of those neighbors, and I know a lot of their dogs. The Happiness Gardens is also over there. Oh, is my time up?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Happiness Gardens, splash pad, maybe an artist displaying work. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Greg is up and Justin on deck.
Thanks for letting us come in to talk. I'm going to talk about something different. I live at 4510 Balsam Street. We're here to talk about the house on 4515 Balsam Street. So I had a big letter written up, and I ain't gonna have time to read that, so I'm just gonna hit some bullet points. First off, we got a lot of prostitution that's going on over there. We got drug dealing that's going on over there. We've got screaming, yelling all times at night, cars coming and going all times at night, random cars parked there all night, people sleeping in the cars. We have reached out to the owner of the house. He played us. The police have been over there 43 times in 2024. Now, I think you guys presented with a booklet of stuff that we have, reports and stuff. There's underage kids living there in the house, and there was a drug overdose about a month ago there. Nobody seems to want to reach out and help us. This is our last chance. So this has been going on for a long time. We've been verbally abused, threatened. Last year, he tried to run over me and my partner. Went to court, didn't work. All I'm asking for is someone to help us. We need the help. And there's several people back here in the neighborhoods that came here to speak. We have several people on video to listen to you guys, watching. That's all I got to say. Like I said, I had way over 3 minutes written up, but I just want to hit some points. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Justin is up, and Peggy Tauli is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Justin Padilla. I live at 4595 Balsam Street, Wheat Ridge, Colorado. I only bring this up because my property has a very unique layout. Sits at the very end of the street where it tees off. I have a big side yard that's very inviting for neighbors, for dog walkers, and they come. Unfortunately, because of the size of the property, this individual sets up drug deals in front of my house, on the side yard of my house, and I get it. Public walkways, public streets are public for people to park, but the amount of paraphernalia that I come into while I'm mowing my grass, or I'm walking around, or I'm just checking the neighborhood is somewhat concerning. The amount of needles that I find in the front yard, in the side yard, is also concerning. I have a 4-year-old daughter who now is very active and goes outside and walks around, and I don't let her go outside in the front yard without shoes on, just because of that. I voiced these concerns to authorities when it's prevalent. There's always seems to be a cop car in front of this particular house, and it seems like nothing seems to get done over time. It seems like this problem has been going on for 13 years now. Not only am I a concerned resident in the area, but the fact that there's active drug dealing happening in front of my house concerns me. My daughter's room sits on the very side of the house, which is very street facing of Balsam. I grew up in a very, iffy scenario growing up, and there was times that I couldn't sleep in the front portion of my house. Never once have I ever feared that I would have to relocate my daughter's room because of the amount of traffic that's happening and the amount of drug trafficking that's also happening. I just hope you guys listen to this. Hopefully it doesn't fall on deaf ears, and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
We have Peggy Tauli up, and Wayne begins with a K on deck.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Tauli. T is in Tom, A-U-L-L-I. I live at 4510 Balsam Street. I have lived on Balsam Street for 12 plus years now. My home is directly across the street from 4515. And I'm here to attest, which you're going to hear more people, hopefully you'll have time to hear them, but I'm here to attest to all activities we have described in our request for nuisance abatement. I personally have been a victim of Rick Mathis, verbal abuse on more than one occasion, and having him swerve his car at me. So I stand here in support of Beth, who you will be hearing, and Greg, and for the safety and well-being of all of our neighbors and children. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Wayne is up, and Ben or Bev is on deck.
My name's Beverly Conrad. This is my husband, Wayne. We live at 4520 Balsam Street. We've lived there 47 years. I am here to stand with Greg and Beth in asking a formal chronic nuisance designation. For over a decade, we have watched this property cycle through various criminal activities, including the long-term pattern of vehicles making high-frequency, short-duration stops at the property indicated of drug dealing. We have seen Richard Mathis living there despite the landlord's repeated promises that he is gone for good. We are exhausted. We have done our part by calling the police multiple times over the years, and now we need the city to do its part by holding the property owner legally accountable for the people he chooses to harbor. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Christine Disney up and Christy Davis on deck.
Good evening. My last name is spelled D-I-S-N-E-Y, and I live in Wheat Ridge. I am speaking tonight on behalf of Daisy. Daisy Disney would very much like for the city to consider a portion of the Wilmore Davis Playground to become available for dogs. And as Brooks so eloquently mentioned earlier, that playground serves as an anchor for our neighborhood. And it was very nice a couple of years ago in the summertime, you could walk over there and hang out with everybody from the neighborhood and the townhomes. I see a lot of people in the crowd that I have met because of dog interaction. It's a huge parcel. All of it doesn't have to be available for dogs. A portion of it could. And you could put that part way far away from the gardens because I know people are concerned about dog poo. But Daisy would really like to go and play with her friends. She is a rough and tumble chase dog. She doesn't understand toys, but she has more friends than I can count. And we met them all at the playground. So I think it's been said very well that we don't need more housing. We need to preserve the character of that neighborhood. There is no other place to go hang with people. And that's really important right now to build community because we just don't have the access to it like we used to. And so I'd like for you to consider encouraging Jeffco and you guys to buy that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Davis is up and Laura Davis is on deck.
So I'm taking Laura's minutes just in case. I don't think I'll need them, but just in case. So Christy Davis.
We don't allow donation of time.
Oh, you don't?
Not anymore. It's
Are
not
you
allowed.
kidding?
Not allowed.
All right, well then I'll talk fast and I'll say Laura's address too, so give me a minute to say her address. So Christy Davis, 7975 West 39th Avenue. Lived in Wheat Ridge all my life, if you could catch the Davis part of it. And then Laura Davis, 4040 Zephyr Drive, also in Wheat Ridge. Thank you for listening to us today, council and city staff. Like to see your Diet Coke there. So I just wanted to talk with you all about the importance of preserving that area. And I think preserving the area and respecting the community. It is a park area that the neighborhood is used to. I also understand from being a previous city council person that it's difficult to say, oh, we're going to buy land and make it a park, because I think there were several times where I've said we've got lots of parks in Wheat Ridge. But I also want to be sure we respect our community in that area and that we're not building additional high rises, especially with what's happening or going to happen with the Legacy Lutheran project. And also our welcome neighbors at Zephyr Gardens. So I would also say that I know in the February 9th meeting that there was some mention of no dog parks. I would say with the big developments going on with the high rises, with the density, there is more need for dog parks. and I'm getting a flash that I better hurry. I also want to say that I am Legacy Wilmore and Legacy Davis, both great-great-grandparents of mine. They did donate the land to Jeffco for the community and the schools. And I also would like that we cherish that part of that donation as well and bring it back to the community. And when a park is built, that we still remember our community and our ancestors that developed it and raised the foundation of me being the 5th generation of service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nikki Davis Depew is up, and we have Elizabeth and Tim on deck.
I'm another Davis. My name's Nikki. I actually live in Lakewood, so I'm here for a completely different reason. The last time I was in here, my dad was receiving a key to the city. Sorry, I'm going to choke. For 50 years of service. That is not the only family member of mine that has given to this community, Corey. And for years and generations, I look at Wilmore Davis as a legacy for my family in name. And so for my purpose here is a little selfish. It's my parents, my family, our history, many carnation growers in Wheat Ridge, which is what this is about to me. Their names are being erased, and I don't think people understand. Wilmore Davis were my family, but people who love this community, who gave.
Like everybody was talking about, everybody loves what's there now, and with all the development going on right now, and what I see with the new, the townhomes down, everybody down there is having babies. So there might be a need for a school to come back, especially when you're adding thousands of new residents at Lutheran and on 44th and Kipling. That's going to be inundated, these schools that are already 30 to 40 kids a classroom, which is ridiculous. So that's what I'd like to see it stay, as all the neighbors enjoy it, and it's nice and quiet, and people, there's practice, little league practice all the time in the springs and the summer, and it's just a great little thing that we got going in the neighborhood. And like I say, one day it might.
Lutheran nearby, we expect the need for community serving amenities to continue growing. Because of this, I would love to see Wilmore Davis remain an education center. Whether that is early childhood education or a technical or vocational program serving secondary education, our neighborhood would greatly benefit from maintaining an educational presence. If an educational partner does not emerge, transforming the building into a civic or cultural center could also greatly fit and would complement the character of our neighborhood while providing valuable community amenities. If the property must be redeveloped as residential, I encourage the city to rezone it for mixed use so that a neighborhood-friendly retail could also be included. I would especially hope that any retail space is accessible to local small businesses rather than large chains, so that it truly serves the surrounding community. And finally, I would love to see the park become more of a gathering space for Bel Air. Additional amenities would complement the Happiness Gardens and encourage residents to spend more time enjoying the outdoors together. Please keep parking to a minimum, because I would like to see this park serve our neighborhood. I'm excited to see how this property ultimately evolves, and I want to thank city staff for their continued work to find the right fit for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
70 police calls in the last 2 years alone. One of the occupants has been arrested over 43 times in Colorado. And there are, in addition to drug deals going on at all hours of the day and night, there's been a drug overdose recently. There are 2 minors living in the home that everyone is concerned about being endangered. And the property owner is well aware of all these problems. We've met with him. We've helped him even go through the whole eviction process. He promised he would evict everyone last year, and got to the point where it was scheduled with the sheriff, but he canceled it the day before. So has promised that he would take care of the neighbors and listen to their problems, but he's failed to do anything. And we've sent him 2 letters talking about asking him to do something. He just ignores them. So we're asking the city to help declare this property a nuisance and to pursue any kind of legal avenues against the landlord.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please
help us.
Thank you. Andrea's up, and then we'll go to our commenters on Zoom.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Grasso. I live at 4090 Ammon Street in Wheat Ridge. Lived there since 2009. I would like to just briefly echo what's been said about the Wilmore Davis opportunity here to keep it as a green space. I just came from there before I came to this meeting, and there were 5 or 6 children under 10 playing on the playgrounds. There were neighbors there. There were dogs there. And it is an essential part of our neighborhood. It is, like many people have said more eloquently before me, it is a unique opportunity. I'm a little dismayed to hear that there's an RFI out looking for a development partner. So I would respectfully request that you update all of us on what that involves and what is happening in that area. I do think that it will be, if that area is redeveloped, it will be a terrible loss for our neighborhood, which, as many people have said, they've made friendships there and connected. Even the developments between the homes and the newer townhomes that are pretty dense, we would not know each other. We would not be a community without that space. So please preserve the community and keep us updated on what's going on with whatever might be happening with the RFI. I, like others, implore you to keep it as a green space to maintain and improve the quality of life in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to Zoom. We have Allison up first with Sarah Westmoreland on deck.
Hi there. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Hey, good evening. Allison Fingado, Fingado, and Kyle Framson here from 7845 West 42nd Ave.
Yeah, and we just wanted to echo everybody's sentiments about the public space. We support our community members, and our porch actually overlooks the open space. On a daily basis, we see dozens of kids, families, and community members gathering to enjoy everything the open space has to offer. We just ask that you please consider the need for the open space, especially as you have a new residential community going into the Lutheran campus with more than enough residential and the area just densifying as a whole. We don't need more housing, but more places to gather safely and to give kids an escape away from, not to play into this, but the drugs and other bad temptations. So we just ask that you please consider the larger need for this anchor and help foster the growth of the community.
Thank you. We'll go to Sarah Westmoreland up, and then Shad Edmonds on deck.
Mr. Mayor, they're not online.
Oh, okay. Sarah's not on. Okay.
Yeah.
Sean Edmonds on?
Not online?
No. Tanya Barb?
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll go to Tanya Barb.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to do the mute. I am a Wheat Ridge resident. I live at 4125 Ammons. And so the Wilmore Davis property is right around the corner from my house. And I am just echoing all of my neighbors' sentiments about keeping the Wilmore Davis space a community gathering option. Green space, cultural building, whatever. And I also am a little concerned that there's already kind of, it sounds like some plans in the works. And so, similar to a couple speakers ago, would love to hear an update on kind of what the council is already thinking. Thanks. That's all from me.
Thank you. I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen here with a question or a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take a point of order to respond to the two principal items that have been brought before us and ask for staff updates on both of those. So first, I just want to thank everyone. This is principally a District 2 night for public speaking, and you're just really demonstrating like the importance of this space, and I just really appreciate everyone taking the time to come tonight and bring your care and passion for not just our whole community, but specifically our district. Two things I just want to share. So when Wilmore Davis School closed, one of the first things that Counselor Ohm and I did was sit down with the city manager and the Parks and Rec director and start the conversation years ago around the importance of preserving the park space there. We recognize that that would be once that opportunity was lost, it would be lost forever. We did the mapping and the math, and we have for the last, I think 3 years, been very proactively advocating that as a planning priority, but also as a budgetary priority. So Councilmember Ohm and I have at budgeting season made sure that there are funds set aside budget to purchase that property. So I just want to share that, you know, we've been in this conversation for 2.5 years to make sure that it's not just something we're thinking about, but strategically we're doing the right things to make sure it's prioritized. So, so I just want to let you know, like, we are strong advocates for what you're asking for tonight. I think it would be helpful for staff to share a little bit more detail and update on what this RFP process is, so that everyone who's here tonight has a clear understanding of, you know, what this process is. As has been mentioned, it's not our property. It is the district property. Luckily, the district is looking, you know, wanting to work with us to figure out the best path forward. So, so I will just talk once and then hand it over to staff on both updates. Then I just want to speak to the balsam nuisance. I am your neighbor. I know you see me walking down your block almost every day. I honestly knew it was not the best property, but I had not heard that this was going on. So I just want to share that it's heartbreaking for my neighbors, and I'm really, really sorry that you guys are going through this. I know staff has some updates on, I know there've been conversations with some of the neighbors in the last week since you reached out to us. So with that, I just really want to thank you and just let you know, we are your advocates, we're on your side. And with that, I will turn it over to City Manager Patrick Goff for some updates.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, we'd love to give an update on both items. The Jefferson County School District did just surplus the properties in Wheat Ridge, and they've surplused all their remaining closed schools, so Wilmore Davis and Color Strand and Wheat Ridge. And they do have a municipal interest process, which we are working through right now for if the city where the schools preside have interest in purchasing or working with a partner. And that's where the RFI process has started. I'll turn it over to Lauren here in a bit, but there are no plans in the works. That's why we're reaching out to anybody who may have interest in partnering with the city to preserve the open space and the parks, but also is there use for the buildings, for an art center, for childcare, for daycare, for anything else that we don't know about. So we're looking for partners right now. There's no plans whatsoever. But I'm just going to turn it over to Lauren, and she can give an update on the RFI.
Yes, I'm awkwardly positioned to be facing council, but responding to many of the comments that we heard tonight. So I'll just share a little bit of history of where we've been. At the risk of repeating some things that some people know, I want to give the full context. So as soon as those schools closed in Wheat Ridge, council and your predecessors asked the school district under no uncertain terms to please make no decisions about Color Strand and Wilmore Davis until we had been able to complete our city plan and our Parks and Recreation pathway, the Parks Master Plan. And the school district did honor that request. They paused and left those schools maintained but vacant for the period of 2 years for us to complete those plans. Many of you participated in those processes. And those plans reaffirmed what you've heard tonight. So particularly the Parks Master Plan acknowledges the need for some park space in that neighborhood. As you know and you've heard, just last month on February 9th, we had a study session at City Council specifically to talk about the next steps for both Wilmore Davis and Kohler Strand. And at that meeting, I'm in the Community Development Department, and we had worked with our Parks team to present a proposal for the city to purchase and permanently preserve the field portion at Wilmore Davis and a field portion at Kohler Strand as well. Council expressed support for that approach. We do, as Mayor Pro Tem stated, we have funding identified. Unfortunately, the city does not have the capacity to purchase the entirety of both school properties or to operate those buildings as it currently stands. And so that's why we have been pursuing this partnership approach. And as Patrick mentioned, it is called a municipal interest process. And what that means essentially is that the district, knowing that we have interest, will let us propose something to them first before they go to the open market, which is a great opportunity. Those properties are not free. They will not be free. I do think the district is open and supportive of finding a win-win solution. So the request for interest is the process that we'll be using as sort of an early stage request for proposals to understand what concepts would be feasible for the neighborhood to align with our parks master plan, to align with our city plan, to align with parks reuse, and to align with the school district's goals. Our intent is to launch that in partnership with the school staff here this month. We were hoping it would be late February. It's now early March and it hasn't gone out yet. We're working with the school district staff on that. We would leave that open for probably about a month and a half and then start reviewing proposals jointly with the school district staff to make sure that we're identifying proposals that we think could move forward both in the school, with the school's goals and with our community goals. We had an article in the Connections that I think got mailed out on Friday, so that might be part of why we're hearing more community interest, which is great. As this process moves forward, there will certainly be opportunities for public information and engagement. If the school district accepts our proposals, then we would move into a significantly more detailed planning phase and engagement phase. The Parks Department typically leads a public process to design and program park space. They do that for all city parks, and they would do the same thing in this case. We do know, and you saw this in the RFI, that we'd need to have at least a portion of that area be practice space to support our existing youth soccer program. So in short, we are actively working on this issue. This is, we've done a lot of planning and engagement over the last couple years, and everything that we're hearing tonight is really helpful because it's very much aligned with what we heard in the city plan and the pathways. So we will continue to keep both the council and the community informed as this process moves forward.
I'll just add one more thing to that to put some perspective to it on the cost. The city does, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, we put $2 million in this year's budget to help with acquisition and or development. That's not going to be enough. The value of the properties, both properties, are anywhere between 7 and 10 million for both Kohler Strand and Wilmore Davis right now, and those are based on appraisals that the school district did. So we'll have to work through that, obviously, but we've heard the community loud and clear, and I think the staff and council has the same sentiments as the community we've been hearing tonight to preserve as much as the open space as possible.
Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind updating us on Balsam Street.
Yeah, Mr. Murtha, are you still here? Can you come up and maybe give an update on the Balsam Street issue?
I can. For those of you who aren't aware, approximately 3 years ago, we received a similar type complaint at that same residence on Balsam Street. At the time, Commander Pickett was tasked with making that job one, to really engage with the neighbors and to find out exactly what was going on at that residence and to try and apply some pressure to the owner of that property. After months of activity over there, of research on the property and of going through the steps in the process to try and rectify that situation, meeting with the neighbors, we had, I don't want to say we had completed the process, but we had done a fair job to the point where I think many of the neighbors that we were in contact with felt that this was a resolved issue at that point. I'm certainly disappointed to hear that it is back up. When I heard about this about a week or two ago, we undertook to take the same path with hopefully a better outcome at this time, with a more permanent outcome with respect to enforcing the rules around a disorderly house. So right now we are actively in the process of gathering information, gathering intelligence, and trying to determine what the best path is to resolve this issue for the neighborhood. Certainly understand this feels like there is a, one time bomb of a house right in the neighborhood, and it's falls predominantly on the police department. We did partner last time, I think, with community development, and there were changes made to the residents that allowed us to take actions that we may or may not be able to take this time, but we are resolute to try and find a solution for this problem again. Much like you, Councilwoman, I certainly am surprised to find out about it. We've tried to keep an eye on it for the year or two after we had worked on it, and maybe we lost attention to it because we thought it was resolved, but apparently it's not. So we will be working on that. I can't talk about all the things that we're doing right now, lest I give a heads up to the folks who are on the other side of this issue, but we are working hard to try and resolve that.
Thank you. Can you confirm that you've been in touch with the neighbors in the last week, talking about follow-up action?
I spoke yesterday or Sunday with with Chief Kellogg, and he advised me he did speak to the folks in that community. So
Okay.
I don't know if he spoke to all the people that made complaints, but I know he had reached out and started to gather information from that perspective. That current issue is assigned to our supervisor in charge of our crime prevention office. So he has resources, he has multiple people to assign, and they have the time and effort and expertise to try and resolve this problem a lot quicker than we did last time.
Okay, thank you. If you would keep Councilmember Ohm and I appraised as things progress, it'd be appreciated.
As we go through the steps, I will.
I appreciate that. And I'll just speak a couple years ago, then Councilmember Zach Urban and I addressed an issue also on Balsam, but on the other side of 44th. And through that process really strengthened some of the city's tools to proactively address these situations. So I'm sorry, it's another Balsam Street address. I personally also live on Balsam Street. But I appreciate that you guys have reached out to the neighbors, and please keep us appraised. And that goes for neighbors as well. You know where to find me.
And if there's anyone we haven't reached out to that does reach out, we'll continue to communicate with those folks and see what their observations are.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for everybody for being here tonight. We're going to go ahead and move into our regular agenda items. First up, our consent agenda. Councilor Quinn, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has a few tongue twisters in it as well. First of all, thank you everyone for coming down and speaking tonight. It's really appreciate it. Mr. Mayor, consent agenda. Item 1A, resolution number 15, 2026, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2026 budget to reflect an approval of a supplemental budget appropriation for the reappropriation and reencumbrance of a 2025 fiscal year encumbered fund for 2025 fiscal year encumbered funds in the amount of $5,374,077.75. The issue, there's one remaining open purchase order from the 2025 budget that will be carried over to the 2026 budget. The remaining purchase order is associated with the Wadsworth Improvement Project. The funds which were encumbered for this purchase order was transferred to the unreserved fund balance of the CIP fund when the purchase order was closed. To close this project in 2026, a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $5,374,077.75 is necessary to allow the transfer of these funds into the Wadsworth Improvement Project budget line item in the 2026 CIP budget. Whew. Item 1B, resolution number 16, 2026, a resolution amending the 2026 general fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $99,000 to accept a grant from the Colorado Auto Theft Task Authority. The issue, the city was recently awarded a grant by the Colorado Auto Theft Task Force through the funding authorization of the Colorado Auto Theft Prevention Authority, CAPTA, for the purchase of a new covert vehicle to be equipped with license plate reading technology. The award provides $70,000 for the vehicle and $29,000 for the purchase and installation of a mobile license plate reader. The total cost of the award is $99,000 and fully reimbursable. The fully reimbursable award provided the vehicle and equipment are purchased prior to June 30, 2026. So we got to move on this. Item 1C, a motion awarding a contract to Jalisco International Incorporated in the amount of $3,278,285 for the Wadsworth Boulevard Path Project.
Thank you. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 1A through 1C.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Ohm. Will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 2. Counselor Martell, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Council Bill number 05-2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws supporting compliance with state legislation regarding housing supportive code amendments to remain eligible for state funding opportunities. At issue, the item under consideration is to amend Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to update the review process for qualifying affordable housing projects and to update accessory dwelling units, ADU, setback requirements for some zone districts to ensure compliance with state regulations in order to remain eligible for state funding opportunities.
Thank you. This is an item on first reading. Counselor Martell, will you please give me a motion?
Thank you. I move to approve Council Bill number 05-2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws supporting compliance with state legislation regarding housing supportive code amendments to remain eligible for state funding opportunities, order it published and public hearing set for March 23rd, 2026 in City Council chambers, and if adopted on second reading, to take effect 15 days after the final publication as required by the charter.
Second.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Holteen. Will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3. Counselor Ohm, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Just 1 minute. Council Bill number 06-2026, an ordinance approving the sale of city-owned real property and in connection therewith authorizing execution of a purchase and sale agreement at issue. The purpose of this action is to request city council approval of the sale of approximately 0.31 acres of city-owned real property located at 3805 Wadsworth Boulevard to HCA Health One LLC for a purchase price of $422,500. Approval of this ordinance will also authorize the execution of a purchase and sale agreement and associated closing documents.
Thank you. This is an item on first reading to set the date and time for a public hearing. Mr. Ohm, will you please give me a motion?
I move to approve Council Bill number 06-2026, an ordinance approving the sale of city-owned real property and in connection therewith, authorizing execution of a purchase and sale agreement, order it published in public hearing set for March 23rd, 2026 in City Council chambers, and if adopted on second reading, to take effect 15 days after final publication as required by the charter.
Second.
I have a second by Counselor Snell. Will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen, will you please introduce this?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce a motion to award a contract to Olson in the amount of $1,652,462 for the design services for the 2J Fund Sidewalk Gap Project. Is there a staff presentation, or shall I read the ad issue?
We do have a brief update on this from our Public Works Director.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go with that. So this is a bid and motion before the council. This is not quasi judicial. And Mr. Goff will go ahead and allow that presentation.
Mr. Gilsman?
There's no slideshow or anything. So yes, this is for our 2J sidewalk gap project. And the bonding, we had a study session on this just a little while ago, discussed all the elements of this project. Just kind of a refresher, the 2J sidewalk program is to have the criteria in the areas of proximity to parks and schools, surrounding sidewalk network, and limited utility conflicts and right-of-way acquisition, and opportunities to leverage the maintenance or adjacent capital work. The presented projects in this, we'll kind of go in some order. The Parfait, Harlan, and the recently added I-70 frontage road. We believe those are projects that we'll be able to get straight away on the design, not a lot of right-of-way acquisition, and we can do those fairly quickly. Miller Street and 26th Avenue will be a little bit more involved with some right-of-way acquisition. And then the more difficult projects, we heard that at the study session as well, would be Dover and Pierce because it's such a large section. So kind of do this in some phases, but we're excited for the contract to be awarded. We'll have a pre-design meeting. We'll come up with a schedule. We'll present that schedule to both council and to the residents of where we're at in the process. There will be some community meetings on a couple of these areas. We don't have those dates tonight. Those will be developed as we move along in the design process. Staff does recommend awarding a contract to Olson in the amount of $1,652,462 for the 2J Fund Sidewalk Gap Project, and I'll answer questions if I may.
Thank you. Before we go to questions from council, I do have somebody signed up for public comment on this. We have Justin Padilla. Might have signed up for the previous comment and, okay. Then we'll go to questions from council. Do we have questions? Seeing no questions, we will go ahead and ask Mayor Pro Tem Holteen for a motion.
Yes, I move to award a contract to Olson in the amount of $1,652,462 for the 2J Fund Sidewalk Gap Project.
I have a second by Councilor Ohm. Do we have discussion on the motion? Let's go, Councilor Larson.
Yes, and thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say that I sincerely appreciate the effort that went into adding the frontage road section from Garrison to Holland. That, to me, is one of the most hazardous stretches of highway, of sidewalk, missing sidewalk in the neighborhood I live in. And while it isn't one of the biggest projects, it is going to make an important addition to pedestrian safety along the frontage road. Again, I really appreciate being flexible enough to add this kind of at the last minute, but it will make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I know we've got a couple of Dover folks in the room, so I just want to, it's District 2 night at City Council. I just want to thank Dover for continuing to be engaged. We had a well-attended and I think well-discussed District 2 meeting a couple weeks ago, and several Dover Street neighbors were there expressing, different perspectives and ideas on what this project will accomplish. And I just want to restate here that Councilmember Ohm and I are staying engaged with staff and with the neighbors. There will be a neighborhood meeting. So nothing is signed off, nothing is set in gold. Like, we are going to be working with the neighbors to figure out what is, what's the most feasible. But I will restate, there is a drainage problem. The city is planning on addressing the drainage problem. So we really hope that working with the neighbors, we can come to a solution that works for enough of the neighbors to move forward with neighborhood support. So we will, again, as was mentioned, we don't have a date for that yet, but as that comes together, we will stay engaged and be back in the room, not in this format, to talk a little bit more about the details of it. So, and I just want to state, I think in that process, I think naming this the Sidewalk Gap Project is maybe, it's Sidewalk Gap and Drainage and Infrastructure Project. So we'll just name it that, because on Dover, the question of sidewalks is at the forefront of whether that's an appropriate use there. So I just want to name, we may be calling it the Sidewalk Gap Project, but that does not mean sidewalks are imminent on all of the projects. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Excellent. We will return back to our agenda items here, and we'll go to city managers' matters.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. City attorney's matter.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
We will start with elected officials, and we'll start with Councilor Okada.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing from me tonight.
All right, Councilor Larson.
And thank you, Mayor. And it was a quite busy week last week since our last meeting. Renewal Wheat Ridge had its monthly meeting, and Renewal Wheat Ridge is now up to 13 members. It's quite an addition and quite a change for that group, and I'm looking forward to serving on that council. On Wednesday, I got to speak at the Optimist Club, and the Wheat Ridge chapter of the Optimist Club is by far probably the best one in the whole metro region, without a doubt. They're just some remarkable people, and of course, they asked me to join the Optimist Club. But some of the questions that came up I thought were fairly interesting. What's going on with the Legacy Campus? What is happening with now that Wadsworth is finished? A lot of the questions that we would sort of expect, but I was again, it was. I'll not go into a lot of details there. There was a ribbon cutting that I'm sure the mayor will talk about later. The Jeffco Schools Foundation had their annual fundraiser auction, and they raised something like $130,000 for Jeffco Schools. Incredible. And then still a little foggy. I'm a little jet lagged from the daylight savings, but I think I'll recover.
Thank you. Let's go, Councilor Wood.
Almost said the wrong thing. The only thing tonight is looking forward rather than looking at something I've already been to. And I feel very privileged tomorrow night to have found out about the Wheat Ridge Active Transportation Advisory Team meeting tomorrow night at 6 at Colorado Plus. This group, as I understand it, is very much involved with sidewalks, bicycle routes, paths, and it's an opportunity to hear from people. So I'm sure it's still open. I think some of our council members may be speaking at that, and I'm looking forward to that as well. I know, again, that active transportation is really something important to Wheat Ridge residents and to me as well.
Thank you. Councilor Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of things. Councilor Wood and I are going to have a district meeting Saturday, April 4th. We were going to have it at the rec center, but we were asked to find someplace else because it's wedding season and everything else season there. And our district meeting would keep the city from using that facility for those purposes. So we're looking for maybe a church or another place in District 3 to have it. More to come, hopefully in the next couple of days. Susan and I will find something, but we'll keep everyone up to date. And also just a shout out to my brothers in the IBW, electrical workers, XL contractors. They were out changing some poles in my neighborhood and had as I came home the other night, I saw road closed signs up, and I'm like, what in the world are they doing? Thought I was going to have a heart attack. They just paved Moore Street where I was at, and I was like, there's no way anyone's going to dig this up. I will lay in front of the tractor. And then I found out, here comes a 30-ton crane, and my brothers were out getting ready to change a couple poles in the neighborhood. And somebody had asked me, were all the kids out looking? And I said, kind of. Myself and several other dads were out watching it very intently, so we are all kids at heart. But that's all I have right now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to District 1. Councilor Martell.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. Councilor Martell and I are holding our twice a month coffee meetings, office hours, but next week they are not happening because we are going to be in Washington, D.C. with several of our other co-councilors, but they will start up again in April. April 6th is our first one. Is that correct? I believe it is. April 6th at Annie's Pie Cafe. April 7th, well, you can go on the 6th as well. They got great pie. You can go every day. Annie's Pie Cafe, right next to Wheat Ridge Meats on 29th. That will be our new spot for the next quarter. We look forward to seeing everyone who'd like to come, bring questions, chat, find out more. That's a time for us to just be in community and support our local business and hopefully engage with some of our neighbors. And one more thing, just in mentioning active transportation, yes, please do come to the ADAT meeting tomorrow night. But to Councilor Larson's point, we had the time change and it's beautiful weather outside. So please be very careful driving. There's lots of folks out walking, kids biking, adults biking. Please be very careful as you're driving around because it's beautiful outside, and get out there and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we're really lucky to get some moisture this last week. I would encourage everybody, I know it was a lot, which I'm really thankful for, but we all need to keep, once it goes away, water your trees, but I would say hold off on watering your grass for a while. I know a lot of people are talking about that right now. It's a problem. We're going to have a tough drought year, and so please try to help conserve water. And the other thing I want to encourage, really thankful that the district here really showed up tonight. I definitely want to hear your problems. If you have problems, and some of the problems I wasn't aware of. And so I would encourage not only District 2, but all the citizens of Wheat Ridge, if you have issues, let your council know. We really want to try to help you get that information to us as soon as you can. And that's I think that's probably it. The last thing was site triangles has come up recently again. I've been trying to advocate for site triangles for a very, very long time, and it's something that I think would enhance the city and also its safety. I worry all the time about site triangles being too high, and I want to make sure that we have a safe city, worried about our kids, worried about our pets. I want to be able to, when I'm driving through my neighborhood, I want to be able to see what's around those corners. And so that's something that's definitely on my mind. And it was another district that brought that up, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I'll try and be quick. I'll just reiterate the Wheat Ridge Active Transportation Advisory Team's State of the City is tomorrow night at Colorado Plus. It's a great opportunity to get like the big picture view of what's going on in the city, and for everyone to kind of get around and celebrate walking and biking. And I'll just share, when I took the dog for a quick walk, literally walked by our big issues tonight, walked down Balsam, walked by Happiness and Wilmer Davis. I saw, and I count this, I saw 14 people on bikes, including 8 kids and 6 adults in about 40 minutes. So biking season is solidly here. Please keep your eyes open, as been mentioned. So ADATs are tomorrow night. Last night, I actually attended a kickoff community table potluck at the Grange. That's going to be a monthly open invitation to community members who are looking just to sit around the table with other community members. It's open to all, and the schedule's a little erratic, but the next one will be the third Sunday in April from 5 to 7. If you're interested in being invited, reach out to me. I'll be happy to get you on the list, but it's an everybody welcome. People just brought dishes to share. And there was just a really strong interest in the room of the value of being around the table and just having conversations, not any agenda or program, just neighbors hanging out with neighbors. And as the weather gets warmer, kids can go out and play on the green. So it's a really great use of our treasure, which is the Grange. So again, reach out to me if you'd like to be included in those invitations moving forward. And then with many of my colleagues, I will be in DC next week. I've mentioned before, I sit on the National League of Cities Transportation and Infrastructure Services Committee, and it's a big year because there's a federal transportation reauthorization for all you nerdy folks out there. But this is the year, in theory, that Congress reappropriates all the funds for transportation, and a lot of those dollars trickle down or don't trickle down into our communities. So one of the things my committee is really actively advocating for is a bill that is actively moving through Congress right now called Basics. And it proposes shifting the proportion of funding away from the state and more to local control. So I'm working really hard. So when I'm in DC, They'll be having fun, and I'm going to be like locked up in a conference room with a bunch of transportation nerds, but we're working really hard to make sure that our tax dollars that go into the federal transportation system come back to our local community. We're also advocating for that at the state capitol this year. There are some proposals that would take away some of our state funding. In theory, they would backfill it, but that's a theory. So on multiple fronts, we are in like Zoom rooms and meeting rooms, just like fighting for some of the dollars that come back to us through our tax dollars. So that's it for me. I'll see y'all. Oh, wait, council. In 2 weeks, we need to have a supermajority present because we have a city deposition of property. So if you cannot make it, please notify either the mayor or myself so that we know if we need to move that agenda item to another night. Thank you.
Just be there. It'll be fine. Last week was a busy week. Well, Thursday was a very busy day. I think I saw several of you several times. Started the morning out with the Jeffco Municipal Breakfast with Councilor Ohm, Councilor Larson, and Councilor Okada. Always great to get to know what the other cities are doing in our county as well as what the county is looking forward to. We also will be hosting one in September. I wasn't going to, but then Councilor Larson looked at me with the big eyes like, we really need to host this. So we'll be in September. Also join me at ribbon cutting for Key Renter, which is a property management company that's opened recently, 4300 Harlan Street. They manage over 1,100 properties in the Denver metro area, over 200 in Wheat Ridge alone. But if you have some property that you're looking to not fix the sink and deal with tenants and all that stuff, it's nice to have somebody do that for you. Key Renters is pretty good for that. I also had the opportunity that day to read at Stevens Elementary to several of the kids. I chose Ninja books because that's who I am. So we read Ninja Red Riding Hood and Three Ninja Pigs. The kids enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with that. And then had the opportunity to join City Manager Goff and City Clerk Hoppy at Porchlight. Porchlight Family Justice Center has been open for 5 years. It's unfortunate that we need their services in our community, but it's very fortunate that we have those services for family members and people who deal with domestic violence and other issues. And then again, joined several of you at the Jeffco Schools Foundation Gala. Over $100-some thousand raised that night. It's always a good time. We got a chance to play with the robots. I saw City Manager Goff working the drones, trying to fly them through the obstacle course, which was pretty cool. The kids' performances were amazing, so really enjoyed that. Always fantastic. I know we have the active transportation thing tomorrow night. We also have Michelle Applegate, who's our school board representative, will be at Wheat Ridge High School tomorrow night for a town hall from 5:30 to 7. So if you have kids in the articulation area or in Jeffco and you have questions or comments, it would be great to see her again, Wheat Ridge High School tomorrow, 5:30 to 7. And then I have coffee with the mayor this Saturday at 9 o'clock. It'll be at the Active Adult Center, which we're excited to get a chance to showcase that building and all the amazing things that they do. So I will just remind everybody that as we get into St. Patrick's Day, we've got some amazing businesses in Wheat Ridge that thrive on St. Patrick's Day, Clancy's being one of them. But if you can find it, you should definitely find it and buy it in Wheat Ridge. So we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting here, and we will have a special study session. I will give us till 8:10, so give us 8 minutes. So we will stand adjourned. Thank you. I will call to order the special study session for March 9th, 2026. We have two agenda items on our plate tonight. We have a new Civic Center campus design process, and then we have a Civic Center land exchange agreement. We have nobody signed up to speak in chambers, so we will go right to our staff presentation.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And these two items really dovetail into each other, so we can do both presentations, or if you want to take a break in between and take questions. I apologize, I have a little bit of a raspy voice this evening, so hopefully I can get through this. I wanted to introduce the first item and then turn it over to our guest here this evening. But Mayor, as you mentioned, the first item is to give an update on the new Civic Center campus design process. We've been talking about this for quite some time. The history is in your staff memo. We'll briefly go over that a little bit, but again, we want to provide an update on the ongoing design process for a potential new Civic Center at the Lutheran Legacy campus. This follows City Council previous direction, including your decision in February of '24, not this body, but the previous council, to move forward with a facilities master plan recommendations. And one of those recommendations was to look at Lutheran campus for potential new Civic Center. As a reminder, this work began a couple years before that with that facilities master plan. That was initiated in 2022 and later developed by the company Stantec to help us understand our current and future facility needs, not just for City Hall, but also our Parks and Rec departments. And Anderson Hallis, who's here this evening, is helping us with that as well. That will be a separate study session coming in the near future. So following the work of the Facilities Master Plan, Council did approve a contract with Anderson Hallis Architects in September of '24 to study the feasibility of reusing portions of the Lutheran Legacy campus for a new City Hall and Police Department. The design team evaluated the existing hospital buildings, nearly a century of additions of varying condition, and explored multiple reuse options. This included assessing historic structures, and they'll get in more details, but there's some pieces there from 1921 and 1932, and mid-century additions and later expansions, which we are looking at preserving a portion of. Through that analysis, two historic preservation focused reuse scenarios emerged as the strongest candidates out of everything they looked at. Both prioritize retaining and rehabilitating the 1932, what's called the Women's Wing, which you'll see some more graphics here, and then also restoring and the remaining wall of the 1921 pavilion, and of course preserving the 1932 chapel, which would not be part of the municipal facility, but would be part of that community. Council previously reached consensus in June of last year, 25, to advance what we call the courtyard design alternative. This option provides better daylight, workspace quality, and long-term flexibility. Tonight's presentation continues with that direction. A rough order of magnitude cost estimate has been prepared for this stage of design. It does reflect very broad assumptions and contingencies. I want to keep that in mind. This is very early on, which is typical for early planning, with the current estimate range of anywhere between 106 and 132 million. Further design development will refine those numbers. So this evening, staff is seeking council direction on three key recommendations. Should we continue design development, and which will bring us updated cost validation? Should we initiate preparation of comprehensive financial strategy to pay for this? And should we move forward with a structured public engagement plan to support transparency, communicate the rationale for relocation, and address any potential referendum considerations that may need to be addressed? So tonight's discussion will help us guide these next steps, ensuring we maintain clarity on scope, costs, financing, and public communication as we evaluate the future of a new civic center for Wheat Ridge. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Anderson Hallis, and they'll introduce themselves and their company, and they have a presentation for you this evening.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Good evening, City Council members, city staff. It's an honor for us to be here to talk to you about this exciting project and the great opportunity it presents. We are here representing Anderson Hallis Architects. We're a 35-year-old firm based in Golden, Colorado. with a focus on historic preservation, contemporary design, as well as adaptive reuse of existing buildings. And that is one of the reasons we are so passionate about this project. It's just an incredible opportunity. With that, my name is Wells Squire. I'm principal in charge of this project, representing our firm. And with that, I'll introduce Rebecca.
Hey everyone, Rebecca Silva, Senior Associate with Anderson Hallis Architects. I was here back in June to talk to you, most of you, about this. So I'll just reiterate that it's really an honor for us to work on this, and we're excited about these next steps that we'll talk about here shortly. I did want to recognize the rest of our teams. It's just two of us here tonight, but we have a whole team of partners working with us, Noelle and Rachel from our office, as well as landscape architects, structural engineers, civil engineers, mechanical and electrical engineers that all helped make this report a success.
So with that, just a quick summary of the discussion topics we'll run through here tonight. We'll hit on purpose and need, some of the due diligence work that's been done to date through the facility master planning processes that were discussed. We'll discuss the planning process that we have been involved with. We'll look at a conceptual layout, sort of an initial layout of what seems most feasible to continue study on. We'll discuss the budget in a little bit more detail, as was mentioned, and then we'll look at timeline and next steps. So first, purpose and need. The city's square footage currently exceeds available capacity when considering the different resources. The 2023 study did look at this building and considered possible expansion with the available site to account for future growth and future needs for the city. There's a lot of challenges presented by this site in terms of limitations, and therefore a more focused study of the Lutheran Legacy Campus became an interest and became a focus of the project. So challenges here, we have ongoing square footage deficiencies. We have geometry of this building and structural configuration of this building that is somewhat limiting when you start to think about how to expand. And also, it would likely, through the analyses that we've done, result in a less optimized outcome. So there's already sort of compromise involved. So with that, we turned our focus to the Legacy Campus, and which would offer opportunities for a consolidated city government presence, a stronger civic presence facing the community, and would just be a great next step for the city.
So some of you have probably seen this already, but feel free to interrupt me if there are any questions. The first step in our planning process was really to try and understand what was there at this Lutheran Legacy Campus. And it has an amazing history in the city of Wheat Ridge. As you probably know, the original sanitarium was built in 1921. And you can see on the left side of the page here, it consisted of a central pavilion and then two wings to the east and west. And then in 1932, that was additions were built on either end, chapel, which still exists, and the women's wing, which is on the west side, which still exists as well, just a little hidden. And then in 1960, they put an addition on the south side of the west wing of the original building. And then in 1967, they built a little bit to the north of the west wing. Then 1970, another very large addition to the south, a 7-story tower. 1972, it was another separate building, which ended up being connected later on. And then, then in 1984, another very large addition to the southeast. 1985 to 1991, there was several additions, smaller story additions to the south and west. And then in 1992, a large addition to the west side of the historic 1932 women's wing that served as the emergency room piece. And then finally, in 2008, another large addition on the east side, which actually involved demolishing the original central pavilion and the east wing of the original building. So this is the conglomeration that exists today. So we did look at several different options, which I'll go through in a minute, but really walked through the entire space trying to identify what would make the most sense to save, what would suit the needs of the city now and in the future, and what could preserve that legacy of the history of Wheat Ridge. So before I get into those multiple options that we looked at, I'll talk a little bit about the programming process that we did simultaneously with investigating the existing campus. And we looked at the current and future space needs for the city, looking at all the different departments. We had interviews with city leadership in each department, and then also walked through their existing spaces to see what's working, what isn't working, how can we make it better, and what do we need to plan for as far as space. So as you can see, the square footage needs of the city that we came up with was roughly double what is in this current city hall. And the tear that is mentioned there is an additive percentage that we add on to the net assignable square footage. So the assignable square footage is things like offices, meeting rooms that have a designated use. And then the tear accounts for things like circulation, the walls, mechanical and electrical systems. So all of those elements that take up space but aren't accounted for. And usually that percentage is in a 25 to 35% range. Obviously that will be zeroed in as we get further along, but that is, right now we assumed a 35% tear for this. So onto a few of the options, and I know we presented most of this last time we were here, so I will kind of breeze through this, but please feel free to jump in if you have questions. So one of the options we looked at of reusing portions of the existing campus was the 2008 tower. Lots of challenges with that, mainly being too large of a square footage, and then bringing challenges with sharing a building with other tenants and things like that. So option 3 was looking at the 1984, which is kind of the more brutalist style addition that is on the southeast side. Square footage wise, that would be a more appropriate fit, but came with other challenges too, as far as condition. It being a little bit older than the 2008 would have prevented some challenges there. And then lastly, reusing the 1992 portion, the former emergency room, which is 2 stories plus a basement, which was a little more than just a city hall needs would be, but not quite enough for city hall and the police department. So with that, we ended up with a variation on option 2, which looked at preserving the rest of the original 1921 piece, the 1921 wing that exists, which is shown in orange on that map, and then the 1932 portion, which is shown in red there. This also included a portion of the 1960 addition to the south. Because of how the addition was made, it's rather integrated to the 1921. So from a structural standpoint, it makes sense to include that as a kind of dividing line. So moving on to some prettier pictures. Our concept for the new civic space is really a reimagining of the historic sanitarium. And you can see on the east side, we have the 1932 piece that we would rehabilitate, as well as the 1921 piece to rehabilitate, and then reconstruct or reimagine a similar scaled pavilion in the central area, and then a reflection of that historic configuration on the east wing as well. Then, as Patrick mentioned, we called this the courtyard option, and so that includes the southern addition, which would be housing the police department. And so that would consolidate all of the city functions in this one space and provide a little bit of separation so that the PD could have their own dedicated entrance, but really provide this civic presence on 38th Avenue and a centralized entryway, improve wayfinding, and really assets for the community. Another part of this that we looked at several different options that are in the lengthy report, if anybody needs some light reading, is the parking garage. We had, due to the constraints on site, we had looked at several different locations for a potential parking garage. And the main purpose behind that was to house the secure parking for the police department. So what we ended up proposing is this below grade parking garage. You can see it is the blue outline on the west side of the existing building. And that would be below grade, so it would enhance the security of that parking and also provide a secure sally port that could be accessed directly into the police department from that parking garage. So high level with the layout of the city spaces. Each of these spaces are 2 to 3 stories high, but generally this is our allocation for the different departments. And we've consolidated most of the public spaces like the courthouse, city council, community room towards that center front entrance, so that can be a very welcoming public space for the community. And then from there, dispersing out to the more private needs of the city staff from there. And as I mentioned, the police department on the south side that would be relatively separated, but also still connected to the rest of City Hall for that convenience, but also addressing their different needs in that way. And as I mentioned, we're viewing this not as a reconstruction of the historic building, but a reimagining of the original sanitarium. It had a great civic presence, the symmetry and the face on 38. I think it provides a very nice civic entryway, and so there's a lot of benefits to reimagining that with more contemporary materials and configuration, obviously, but creating that link between history and the future of the city. So obviously, this is a massing. It is not a final design, but the intent here is to show you the scale of these buildings in relationship to the historic pieces which would remain. And with that, I will turn it back over to Will.
So into budget, again, very preliminary and again, intentionally conservative at this point, planning for unknowns. We'll talk about that. This first slide really is meant to explain or just keep in mind, as many of you may be aware, and for anyone who isn't, really what the total project will involve. And there's hard costs and soft costs. Hard costs are really the costs for the general contractor directly, the cost to build the project, for their owner, overhead and profit from the construction side of things. The total project budget would include that plus soft costs including owner's contingency for anything that's unknown, unforeseen, that might arise during construction, testing, surveying, inspections, project management of, in the form of owner's representation, perhaps, insurance, design team fees, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment to furnish the facility when they're completed. So in all, that incorporates the overall considerations that would be necessary for the overall project. So we just want to sort of keep that in mind. So again, preliminary budget at this point. And what we've tried to do here is it's based on a cost per square foot. We don't have any actual design yet done. We haven't specified materials, reconciled all the design systems or the structural systems that'll be necessary to build the building. The extent of rehabilitation for the historic elements that would remain, as well as the new construction. So with that, we've looked at each of the different aspects of the project and tried to break it down into compartmentalized cost per square foot for the different types. So for site improvements and development fees, this includes things like utility infrastructure, parking, landscaping, site amenities, furnishings, even the prospect of needing to import improved fill, for example, if we have unfavorable soil conditions relative to structure. All those things that will be determined and clarified through ongoing evaluation and further due diligence. So we look at that as approximately 216,000 square feet with its associated range of cost per square foot. Again, we don't really know, but we are looking to the future as well. So we've added some escalation here to account for spring of 28 estimated start, right? So that's something that would want to be continuously updated as the project itself is further clarified through additional design. Historic rehabilitation, about 38,000 square feet, a little bit of a different square foot cost there. That would be the City Hall portion. And then new construction, kind of additional City Hall and Police Department addition. That has a different cost per square foot. There's other considerations there aside. Police Department has very unique, specialized requirements that will drive up the cost per square foot a bit. There's also code required considerations and implications with regard to what's known as a risk category for the project. It's actually required to be designed as a risk category 4. So what that means is higher structural factors. It's meant to be more resilient to any natural disaster or any other sort of vulnerability, but that does add cost. Below grade parking, Rebecca mentioned, we're going to look for opportunities perhaps to take advantage of some of the existing basement space and excavation that's there. That's something that we would want to look at carefully just to try and find any economy and efficiency we could in what's there now in terms of existing infrastructure. The below grade parking is, again, I think Rebecca mentioned, would include secure parking, sally port for the police functions. With that, sort of a combined estimated range of possible hard costs, 82 to 100 million. And then on top of that, again, as we discussed, a rule of thumb this early with the limited definition that we have in design and for the project, it's a rough estimate of about 30%. And so with that, when you consider the soft costs on top of that contingency and the other items I mentioned, the range is estimated, again, preliminarily at 106 to 132 million. So with that, Rebecca will touch on a few things that have evolved since the last time we met with you last year.
Thanks, Wells. And as he mentioned, I wanted to touch on a few things since the last time we were here. If you recall, we had presented the construction costs around 82, 83 million. Since then, there's been a few changes in the design, working with the city, that have driven the cost up a bit. One is the below grade parking garage. Previously, we were looking at above grade, and when we put that below grade, it increases costs from excavation, and then we need special ventilation and things like that. So that increased a little bit. We also added a shooting range for the police department and adjusted the escalation rate, as well as mentioned. I believe we had it in construction starting in 2027 last time we were here, and we're looking at more realistic timeline would be construction start in 2028. So that added another little percentage on top of that. As he mentioned, obviously we will be continuing to refine this and narrow that wide range down into something more accurate as the design evolves. But at this stage, we did want to be conservative and minimize the risk of future escalation for you all, and try to account for all those unknowns that we don't have yet.
Next slide. And so we'll talk next just quickly about phasing and prospective timeline for the project. And really, we've already hit on this, kind of where we've been. It started with the 2023 master plan, and then the initiation of our work in 2024 through just a recent completion of the Legacy Campus facility feasibility master plan report, which is, I believe you've all had the opportunity to see. Next steps in this process would be more investigation, further due diligence to, again, identify any risks and better understand really the nuances that are going to be required to advance this project. Following just, again, further site evaluation and engineering studies to include the disciplines that were mentioned. We would get into schematic design. That's the initial, after sort of a conceptual design, which is more or less, you know, the massing studies you've seen. Schematic design is the next step in the sequence of just working towards ultimately construction documents, which is, or the detailed documents for which the project would be constructed. With each progressive phase of design, starting with schematic design, the project is further defined. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to really iron out the design, understand where it's going to go, and thereby refining the estimated opinion of probable costs for the project. So that by the time, you know, we're really into design development, which would be the next phase, that's firmly defined and understood. And then really the construction document phase is where we do the details and the minutia, and we specify all the final products and everything else that go into the project. So we'll elaborate a little bit more on both the due diligence process and the schematic design. So immediate phasing considerations really as a part of the due diligence study is just, as I've mentioned, a thorough existing conditions investigation to minimize any risk. This has already begun. We would look forward to taking that further and beginning to look at potential structural systems and how to integrate a new construction with the historic assets that are there. You know, as a part of the demolition process for the Legacy Campus, there'll be a consideration for a collaborative approach to shoring and a protection strategy for the existing structures, because, you know, it's not like construction is going to start immediately on this as soon as the rest of the hospital structures are demolished, right? So how do we preserve, protect, maintain safety in the interim and maintain structural integrity of the parts that remain? So that's a consideration as well. And then really kind of a preservation first approach in the sense of utilizing what assets we have, what part of that legacy campus can contribute to a future legacy for the city. And, you know, that was a part of the work that's been done in dissecting all the different layers of this building, trying to identify the core elements that have the most prospective value for the city in telling a story and really being responsible with this opportunity. You know, that's really the goal, is to identify what is efficiently beneficial and useful for the city that really has merit, quality, and the prospect of becoming a part of a really extraordinary new civic consolidated campus for the city.
So next steps that Wells had mentioned, the due diligence elements, and this is our, now that we have our master plan, this is where we head next. And there's three main components to this, and these are really the elements that are necessary to inform this next step of design and inform the city and reassure you all that this is the right path forward for you all. So the three elements, main elements there are the existing conditions investigation, and that'll include looking in detail at the spaces and the elements that we want to try and reuse. And again, what are the structural systems? We plan on including a LiDAR scan of those and developing a full three-dimensional digital model based off of what's there that we can use then to develop the next phase of design. And then the next piece would be the demolition and temporary protections. Wells kind of mentioned that already, but working closely with the developer that would be working on the surrounding pieces to really protect those assets for the city's future use. And then lastly, utility coordination and entitlements. This is a big one. There's a lot of utilities already on the site, but working closely with the developer to find efficiencies among the properties that would be there, and where are the tie-in points, where are the routing, that sort of thing.
So following the expanded due diligence process and looking ahead into schematic design, that initial real design phase, that's the time where the programming and space needs are really confirmed. We re-engage with project stakeholders and understand exactly what the space requirements are, what anticipated growth might look like, what spaces could be shared to find efficiencies, and really just iron that out so that we have a very clear building program for the different departments that would be included. Develop site and building designs, again, elaborating on what you've seen today, but really getting into more detailed design. Again, working with city stakeholders, but also our engineering team to begin initial mechanical system selection considerations, structural system requirements for the project, looking for efficiencies there. And then as a part of that, confirming any sustainability goals that the project and the city may have for the project and initiating that process, because that's something that does want to start very early. And as I communicated before, kind of an initial look at building, well, certainly materials and systems. This is where we start to really iron out the different options and figure out what might be most suitable for this project, considering the different types of systems that are there now with the expanded new construction that would complement it. And then finally, refining project budget and funding. That's the goal. As design progresses, and again, we get into more accurate systems and design, we can do more accurate takeoffs, and therefore we can refine the cost or the estimated opinion of probable cost. So that's a priority.
And then we're almost done, I promise. Just wanted to touch a little bit on the future steps that come after this schematic design phase. One is working closely with the city on community engagement and really listening to the community and what they want to see in this and how this building can be a structure that supports their needs as well. Then, as well as mentioned again, completing the building and site design. That would be the schematic design that he walked through. The next phase would be design development, followed by construction documents. And then we go through the permitting process to make sure we're able to build this, and then finally construction. So we have put together a high-level timeline here. And again, this is big picture. And you can see the first phase here is that due diligence. Early and thorough is really going to set up the project well for future phases. And then overall, we're looking at likely 2028 start of construction. And again, this is a little bit of a conservative approach at this point. There are opportunities for some efficiencies in this schedule, but this is the kind of big picture at this point. So with that, any questions?
Go to questions from council. Councilor Rome.
Thank you for that presentation. A couple questions I have are, and this might be, and it's okay if you guys don't have an answer, but I know that constituents they're going to have a lot of questions pertaining to money. And the three, and I like everything that you're showing, but the other two questions I have surrounding that are, one, as we're going through this process of how much does it cost, have you done any studies of if this was bare ground I'll just call it the Legacy campus, bare ground, you were going to stick to a historic brick, that type of architecture, ballpark, what would that cost be? And then was there any type of analysis on the this campus, the old City Hall campus, if you tore everything down and you put in exactly the same amount of square footage to try to keep apples to apples, but did not do any type of historic architecture, any type of brick, just kind of basic, what would that cost be? And the reason I kind of would like to know that, and I know I'm kind of asking this kind of late right now, but is that way we could have some conversations with the constituents and be like, you know what, here's the city hall isn't working, tell us why. I know that I've had some conversations that kind of where we're at right now does not help employee retention, and that's a problem. And that's a hard dollar amount to put on, like how much is that costing us, because maybe we don't have adequate facilities. And I know that this is the truth because the first time when I came on council, I got to see the police department and see the male female locker rooms, and it's not great. It's not great, and I know we can do better. And so just to have kind of 3 different scenarios, I think might help paint a picture than just having one, like, well, this is the new one and it looks great, and this is the cost. That way we could kind of have a little comparison. And then some other things. I know I saw something that talked about existing maybe water sewer taps either on the Legacy campus, and so I know that we're looking at getting rid of this campus and moving, and so like, and that's a small thing, but like is there any credit for the existing sewer water taps on this campus, and is there existing sewer water taps on the old one, and how does that affect, what are those numbers? And I don't need an answer tonight on those. And then the last comment I want to have is the sustainability is great. I would, for me, I would love to see something, down the road of talking about, thermal batteries and geothermal for heating. I don't know what those costs are, but I think that would be something that Wheat Ridge would really value. So thank you.
I could speak to a couple of those items. Well, one, which we'll probably talk about here on our second agenda item, but we are discussing the credits on the water and sewer taps and what that looks like and doesn't look like. I don't know if we have great numbers on if we built here or we built fresh. I think it's actually a higher per square foot to build new on the new campus.
It is, and as Patrick mentioned, we didn't specifically do cost estimates for those different options. I can tell you that we're usually seeing for ground up new construction around $1,000 a square foot, which is the higher end of what we've assumed here for the new portions of the building. I think the cost was not the main driver to not pursue the option at this location. I think it was the challenges of adding on to this existing building. And as you mentioned, if we scraped it all, we did not look at that option specifically, but the phasing challenges with that would be quite significant. Having to rehouse everybody that is currently working in this building for at least 2 years, probably. So that would be another big challenge. So that was the main reason that kind of shifted us away from looking at this building.
And I think that would help paint that picture of context of showing like, yes, if we're going to rehouse everybody and we're going to start new, this is what that's going to cost. I just think that kind of helps show that context. Thank you.
And I can speak to the sustainability side of things. What we have currently assumed in this cost estimate is a geothermal system. It makes a lot of sense from an energy standpoint, and not just a tree hugging sustainability side, but just a cost and maintenance standpoint makes a lot of sense for this building. So.
Rebecca hit all the points I would have made, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wondered on somewhere along the line, we had a discussion around a library also being here. Can you talk about what the latest is with that, if possible?
Yeah, probably not much, much more than the update I gave, I don't know, a couple months ago now. Yes, we would love to get the library here. We heard that this evening, I think, from numerous folks about a new library in Wheat Ridge. So the Senior Resource Center, where the library is today, they're looking at a senior housing project on site. So they're having discussions with the library of what that would look like if they would move. Lauren and I met with them about a month ago, maybe now. They're trying to schedule, the library reached out and wants to meet again. So, but to be honest and frank, we've been having those discussions for several years, and it's hard to get them to make a decision and to move forward. We, Chris and our E5X friends are here as well, the new owner of the Lutheran Legacy Campus, and we've had numerous conversations with them to try to fit them in somewhere in the campus, and they have not made up their decision mind yet. They are in a community outreach engagement process right now, which we're told will wrap up sometime in July to get feedback first before they make a decision.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Okada.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for this presentation. It's very helpful. One thing Councilmember Snell mentioned about the libraries that really jostled the memory, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I wouldn't have thought to mention this if you didn't mention it. My wife has worked in libraries for over a decade, and one of the suggestions that she had, well, if the library district isn't so interested in putting a full-blown library there, the community may still benefit from an express library, which was a concept that I wouldn't have encountered if my wife didn't work in the library system. So I remember last time we heard something about maybe some reluctance from the library district about no drive-up window, no, et cetera, but an express library, of course, would be a much more limited service, but would still be kind of like focused on books and getting that service to people. So I just wanted to put that out into the world. I wanted to say thank you for the aspects of the presentation that were focused on the kind of like looking for efficiency opportunities and being able to tell that story, like gathering those pieces right now. I'm thinking in the similar line to Councilor Ohm about the way that we express this to the community and the way that we tell that story about the preservation of efficiencies to be able to help us with cost, but also the historical nature of the building. We dipped a little bit into that information a couple times in this presentation, but I want to ask a little bit more specifically in the stage that we're in right now. Hearing that there's like an early process to us beginning that, can I hear a little bit more detail about what that's like? Like are we gathering like a list of possibilities that we want to look into? Is that list of possibilities even potentially beneficial for us to have a public understanding of what those are? Maybe with an expectation that not every possibility is going to come to fruition?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that and help me out let us know if we don't answer the question. But what the next steps would look like would be more or less within the massing studies that have been shown, because again, we've done some preliminary programming. We understand generally what square footage appears to be necessary. But now it's time to test that and to do more specific floor plan layouts, work with city stakeholders, the people who are going to occupy these spaces, again, to understand if the numbers that have been estimated actually align once you start to draw the offices, draw the conference rooms, the break rooms, the meeting rooms that support those spaces. As a part of that, typically there is a discussion about efficiency and where can we share spaces. Maybe one big conference room can be shared with two departments. Those are the kind of things that we would sort of work to evaluate. The other consideration is just anticipated growth and making sure that there's an intelligent plan for incorporating adequate space for day one, but also looking to the future and making sure that you don't underbuild for the future. That's not to say that you just arbitrarily build X% square footage more, but you try to do it in a way that's thoughtful, that space that can be easily adapted as time and workspace requirements evolve. We've seen a lot of changes since COVID, a lot more efficiencies, hybrid working spaces, things like that have influenced how we think about space planning and design. So in terms of what it would look like, that would really be the next step. And through that process then, as I alluded to, maybe not so clearly, was now we can start to do preliminary framing diagrams. We can confirm that the massing studies that have that seem to make sense for what the existing assets on that site are giving us, we can test that, and we can look at, again, structural systems, mechanical systems. Again, in the preliminary estimates, we are considering a high degree of efficiency. We're advocates for that where possible. It's in the end user's best interest anyway to have a lower operational cost for the long term. It sets a strong example. So geothermal, super insulated envelope, various strategies for stormwater management on the site, all those things would be things that we could start to look at more closely, understand what it really means, and inform the cost estimating team with more detailed information that then they can decipher more accurate costs from. So I hope I answered the question. If not, we're happy to elaborate.
No, that is very helpful. It's especially when it comes to like identifying the opportunities and expressing them to the public. It sounds like a very compelling but complicated story, like something that might be a little bit more difficult to explain. But I guess that's our job as council to make sure that we're digesting that and making sure we're speaking to the community in that way. It's very helpful though.
We can, and you know, one of the things that we as architects struggle with sometimes is we're very accustomed to our own sort of vocabulary, and so we forget sometimes that that might not be, you know, universally understood by all. So we're always happy to try and help create narrative to better explain really kind of the process that we deal with every day.
Wonderful, thank you. And I just have one more question, and I don't mean to imply I'm a big advocate for firearms training for our police officers, so I don't mean to imply anything with this question. But how common is it for a municipal police department to have a shooting range on site?
I can't give you specific statistics. I can say for sure that we have seen it before. We've seen police stations with and without. I mean, again, I don't have any real data to offer. We're involved with a police station design right now. It's a smaller police station. They do not have a shooting range, but it's also not comparable to the scale of this municipality. So just, I think, a question that I can't really give you a data-backed answer to.
No problem. Thank you.
And there is a little bit of background on that as well, on maybe why the chief asked for that. We are part of a regional shooting range in Wheat Ridge with most of the municipalities around us, and it's probably going to be going away very soon. It's an outdoor range, needs a lot of money put into it. So I think the thought was, well, if that's going to go away, let's make sure we're good for the future and have our own shooting range. And it's pretty far south in Lakewood as well, so it's more efficient if it's local. But it could be one of those things on the value engineering list that, if we need to get the costs down. Maybe that's something that needs to go. But we're going to have to find another shooting range probably at some point.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilor Wood.
I too wanted to say thank you for the presentation and the thoroughness of the presentation, because that's really helpful to me as a pretty new council member. And just to sort of add on to what Council Member Ohm asked, were about cost. The ranges that you have given, I appreciate the buckets you put these things into. I'm trying to get a handle on maybe where you are in design and with those costs. So I guess what I'm really asking about is what's your degree of confidence right now that things will fit within those ranges?
Yeah, we made every effort to be as responsible as we could be in the communication of those numbers as best we know it today. And I know that's an ambiguous answer. But again, that's the purpose for the range of costs that have been offered. It's based on a third-party cost estimate, based on, again, initial programming. At this point, it's a cost per square foot basis. Again, we don't have any of the detailed design that really allows us to do more detailed takeoffs and get more specific trade costs at this point. So we have to rely on this at this time. But again, we feel that the higher range that has been represented in this report is our best conservative, with being informed by our third-party cost estimator. That's, we consult that out and we rely on their expertise, looking at recent construction trends, escalation costs, average escalation over so many years, again, escalation to the initial point of construction, sometimes midpoint of construction. Of course, we can't guarantee anything. We don't have the crystal ball. But I can say again that these are conservative numbers on the high end, and they do represent sort of the wish list, really, at this point. I mean, it's all encompassing with shooting range, geothermal. I mean, the aspirations that could be, all aspirations that might be considered for the project. So again, tell me if I didn't answer your question.
No, actually, you did. I guess maybe I have one more follow-up question, and that is about the contingency. I know that the earlier you are in design, the more important it is to have a higher contingency. So I would assume as you go through the stages of design that might come down some from the 30%.
That's exactly correct, yes. Again, it varies at what degree it tapers back. Usually at each phase of design, once we have more accurate estimates, it does taper back. 30% is a high contingency at this point. It's significant. By the time, you're in construction documents, we've seen it as low as 5%. And that, again, could be as soon as you start digging to do your foundations, you find the Indian burial ground or something that, So, I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, that's like, it's I shouldn't maybe have said it that way. But, no, but again, you can find things that you can't detect through, your best efforts at due diligence all of a sudden when construction starts. But that's the purpose of just as comprehensive of due diligence as you can do. That carries through the geotechnical analysis that'll happen, just evaluating the soil conditions, understanding what is going to be necessary in terms of improving soil, for example, to have the compactive strength, the compaction density that's necessary for spread footings versus deep footings. There's a lot of different considerations.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you so much for the well put together presentation. Every time I look at it, I'm like, this is such a complicated building. The building that is getting mostly taken down has just been reimagined so many times. So Councilmember Wood actually asked my question that I was going to ask about contingency. I grew up in a family that did historic renovation. I'm also highly aware of once you get into the building that there's a lot of suspected unknowns that can emerge. So one of my questions is, I'm assuming that understanding, some of those contingencies, especially around, I'm just looking at the eras that this was constructed. We all know that there's asbestos and lead and what other types of surprises are kind of like tucked into the early phases of that contingency?
I would say our goal with that due diligence phase is to really find what those are.
Okay.
As Wells mentioned earlier on, we do a lot of historic preservation and have so many stories we could share about all the fun surprises that you might see, but our intent here is to work closely with the developer that is demolishing and try and expose the existing structure that's there, so we can understand as much as we possibly can before we get too far along. So we know what the structure is and then can adapt our design accordingly. So not to say that there's not going to be surprises, because there probably will be, but the more we can do up front during this due diligence phase to try and find those and deal with them early on, it's going to set us up better as we go forward. Did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
These are really solid buildings. I mean, they're,
Yeah.
as one would say, they have really good bones. And what we've seen and been able to observe to this point is encouraging. I mean, really solid structure, no, gross signs of differential settlement or stress on the building. There's some, masonry repointing, which is typical in historic buildings, but just quality craftsmanship. And, these buildings have withstood the stand of time. And, considering too that they've been added on to so many times and influenced so many different ways, they still appear very, very sound. But yes, just planning for the unexpected.
And then for my second question, if you wouldn't mind going back to the graphic that showed the current square footage utilization and the projected square footage need with the new building. There we go. So I'm curious, I'm looking at this kind of, just a little bit more than doubling of city manager space, community development's getting smaller. How does that happen? Municipal courts doubling, administration going up, and then the shared city hall spaces like just explodes. What is the difference between our current 8,400 square feet and almost 30,000 square feet? Because that increase is a huge chunk of the increase between what we currently have and what we'd be building, and it's not clear to me what that square footage is being used for.
Yeah, I'll start, maybe. I think Rebecca has an answer too, but there could be some space in there that could go away. Again, I think this is the wish list. We're very short on meeting room space in this building, and a lot of it's that, and other spaces as well. And we don't have break rooms for employees. Our break rooms have been changed, built into offices, and so things like that. But you may have a more detailed, you've been in the weeds more than I have.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. I think the meeting space is a big one. We heard across the board with every department that we need more meeting space, and the meeting spaces that we have are undersized and always booked. So that is a big chunk. That is one of the efficiencies that we're looking at for this next phase is how many of those meeting spaces can be shared among departments? What is the appropriate size? Can we have a larger meeting space that could be divisible into two, similar to what we have here? Another thing I will add on that is the accessibility that's required in new spaces. This building is pretty severely deficient in that, not just in restrooms, but hallways and things like that. That does add quite a bit to make a fully accessible building.
Great, thank you. I think my other questions are really going to be for after the next presentation, but I cannot help but to think, in all seriousness, around shooting range consolidation of another shooting range problem we have in our city. I mean, in all seriousness, like if the inspiration behind us building our own shooting range and we're trying to address appropriate siting and location of shooting range in our community, I mean, maybe that's something that gets cited not at City Hall, but somewhere else in our community and could be an innovative partnership that we're looking to solve.
Yeah, I think there's other options there. This would not be an above ground shooting range like the one on 38th Avenue, so it wouldn't have the same issues, I think. But yeah, there's options there.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is that maybe we solve both shooting
both
range
together.
issues with the same location.
Oh,
So,
I see. I got you.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, it looks like staff has 3 recommendations. We'll go one by one and ask for consensus on each one. To authorize continued civic center design and cost valuation, do we have a consensus to move that forward? Looks like we do. Number 2, to direct development of a financing strategy. Do we have, we do have consensus on that. And then to direct development of a public engagement plan. Do we have consensus on that? We do. Mr. Goff, do you need anything else from us on item number 1 then?
Maybe just clarify that the next step, we just got a proposal from Anderson on the cost of the next step. We didn't have it ready for tonight, but we're going to sit down and discuss that with them. There's a range of that with that number as well, so that will come back at a later time and to move forward to that next step.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all so much.
Thank you.
We will go to item number 2, which is the Civic Center land exchange agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce this one as well, and our team is, the rest of our team is coming up. So as I mentioned earlier, this dovetails in really well. I'm glad we're doing both of these together this evening, but so this item is to request approval of a land exchange agreement between the city and LLC, Lutheran Legacy Campus LLC, who is this group here, E5X, the redeveloper of the Lutheran Legacy Campus. This agreement, to make this happen, to make this move over from this site to the new site, this agreement allows the city to secure a 4.5 acre site, which you saw on one of the previous slides, on the north end of the Lutheran Legacy campus along 38th Avenue, without purchasing land outright. In exchange, the city would convey an equivalent area of our current property here at the site, where the municipal building and parking areas are currently located. We would continue to retain the approximately 4 acres of the park, which is deed restricted because it was purchased with open space funds many years ago. So as we've talked about, the existing municipal building is functionally obsolete and no longer meets our operational accessibility, as you just heard, or technological needs. The proposed site within the Luther campus provides better access, visibility, and integration with a growing mixed-use district. A key benefit of the agreement, which you'll hear about tonight, is that the redeveloper will fully prepare the new site, including demolition, grading, utilities, stormwater, and shared parking, with which the redeveloper will fund and estimates at about $13.5 million in total site improvement cost. The city will retain full control over the design, as we just spoke about, and construction of the new civic center. The agreement, which you'll hear about in a moment, includes robust due diligence protections for both parties, leaseback provision allowing the city to remain in our current building until the new facility is operational, and a series of conditions that must be satisfied before closing, including subdivision approvals, charter required authorization, final land use approvals, demolition completion, and the execution of a leaseback agreement. So overall, this exchange advances our long-term community goals, replacing an obsolete facility, preserving open space, leveraging private investment, and positioning the Civic Center within an emerging activity hub. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mark Tompkins. Have you been in front of this group? You have, haven't you?
I have not.
You have not, I'm sorry. No. So Mark Tompkins, we've been working with for several months now, advising the city on the land exchange agreement, and he's also working with us on building a financial plan to make this work. Mark is going to be joining us as well at our workshop in April to continue that conversation. But Mark and Lizzie, also here, who we're working with, will tag team this presentation about the land exchange agreement, and then also kind of a teaser on how we could potentially fund this. Correct?
Thank you, Patrick. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Tompkins. I'm with Tompkins Advising. With me tonight is Elizabeth Lee with E. Lee Advisory Services. We kind of mashed together. I'm a longtime public finance development person here in Denver, and Lizzie is about 10 years now in our space of working on figuring out complex projects, financial models, that sort of thing. So we get involved in real estate development, large-scale developments that have a significant public finance element to them. And so we also worked with Renewal Wheat Ridge on the tax increment shareback agreement with E5X. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I think Anderson Hollis made my job really easy, so I'm going to fly through my first couple slides because they're about current conditions and your needs and all the things that you've already talked about. So we won't get too much into this other than I will point out the fact that I should have talked to them a little more about what TARE means, because I did not put that in my square footage totals here. I just showed that currently there's about a 9,000 square foot deficit on the departmental needs, not the shared spaces, and then projected an 18,000 square foot or 50% variance. But if you throw in the other 20,000 of the other stuff we talked about earlier, my numbers start to look a lot like their numbers. And that's our current site. But the opportunity that we have, of course, is what Patrick just said, a new site to control that site. This is really what the land exchange agreement does, is it gives the city control of the new site while you go through all of the due diligence on planning, financing, all of those things. And so keep that in mind. That's really what the land exchange agreement does, is it provides control of the new site while you do all the chores you have to do to tee this thing up.
Won't do much on the project timeline because you looked at that already. Key thing there is construction, targeting that for completion around Q4 of 2030. If you think about 2 years to build the site out, all the other stuff is things that you guys have looked at thus far. Wrong button. There we go. So what does the land exchange agreement do? The city gets control, as I said, of the new site. We preserve those historic buildings and consolidate and right-size the space for the city functions. What does the developer get for that? Well, the developer gets control of the current Civic Center site and becomes a development opportunity for them after the city has done everything it needs to do, constructed its new site, relocated. Then the developer can come in. In the meantime, we'll have been working on what this current site would look like in the future, and then be able to come in and assume control of the site after the city is relocated. I want to point out that these are only the main benefits of this thing. Your appendix has 3 full pages of itemized details in there, and which I'm happy to go through. Your city attorney may not have liked some of the paraphrasing that I did there, but I tried my best to shrink a big document down to 3 pages and hit the high points. Okay. What are some other things that we're doing here? Well, E5X is going to be doing this surgical demolition. I know that Anderson Hollis has been working with E5X's contractor. They've walked the site. This is actually an old graphic. It was to try to put a buffer zone around all of the historic stuff. Turns out the contractor has given better information around, like, well, you're actually making it harder. We should just take off all the new stuff and leave the historic building face, because we can't actually give you 6 feet of the new stuff to protect the historic building face. So this graphic will change and be updated, and I think actually simplify what maybe the original concept was. There's going to be site security needs on the new site. Well, E5X will take care of that. They're going to be on site, and they will take care of the site security there, while the city, in exchange, takes care of site security here while it maintains operations and is in occupancy. You see the transferability of the water and sewer taps. We've got that written into the agreement. Still working through the particulars of that with E5X. But the intention is that if the city has assets here, they will be compensated for the assets that they currently own in some fashion, whether that's a trade of water taps between one site and the other, or a cash exchange, TBD. We're still working through that. And then the closing is contingent upon lots of other things, and that is the city securing its funding, financing, and construction contracts. So you don't get saddled with the new site until you are very comfortable that you've got it all figured out. Okay. Oop, I wasn't supposed to go there. Lizzie is going to take care of the dollars and cents part. That was the agreement. Should I pause there for questions, or are we going to get through the whole thing?
That's a specific piece Lizzie's going to talk about, again, the funding strategies. So questions about the general concept of a land exchange? And as Mark said, we're still working through that. This whole team has been working on this. We have a draft, getting pretty close, I think. Going back and forth, there's a couple things that we're still negotiating, like rent. What would rent be if we stayed here and E5X becomes the landlord? And then the water tap issue, sewer taps, we're still working through that a little bit. Jerry, do you have something to add?
Yeah, why don't I add to that there's sort of 2 sets of protections here for a situation where you can't just exchange the land and, okay, they take this site and we take that site, and it's all good, because there's this delay of years, really, during which the city's got to acquire financing and get construction contracts in place, and there's zoning and platting that has to take place on both sites. So originally, we were thinking of some kind of weird reverter situation in case the city, for example, wasn't able to finance. But we migrated that to the structure that you see now, or that's been described, and the 2 key parts of that structure are a lease back arrangement. So each party has the security they can be where they are. Mostly it's the city can have the security of staying in
a piece of property that they no longer own, but they are renting. But nevertheless, you will own a site over there at Lutheran Legacy, and that has to be leased to whoever's going to take care of security, at least at that. Sort of whoever is on site can manage security and whatnot much easier, and we'll be here and they'll be there. The other part of the structured agreement that I think is really important is the preconditions to closing. So we migrated a lot of the things that we just don't know about this, and until we know about it, are we really going to close on this property and turn it over? So that list got much longer, and I'm happy that it did, because it contains the things that frankly both parties need to have happen before they're confident about doing this. There's both plats have to be approved, a plat for our new site and a plat for the developer's proposal here. If one of those doesn't happen, you can understand why one party would not want to go forward. Financing, the approval of the site plans, as I've mentioned, the approval of the sale of the property by the city, that can be subject to a referendum, of course. And this is a community that exercises its rights of referendum vigorously. So that's built in. So these are all things that prevent us, either party, I think, from getting out ahead of itself and being committed. Okay, now you own that land, you're stuck. So we have really designed it, and we'll keep refining the things that have been mentioned, but we've designed it to make sure that when closing does happen, we've got the money, there's a contract for construction, we know we're in over there. And I emphasize that because of the nature just of the timing. So any questions, obviously, about the whole agreement, but on what those closing preconditions are, because that's really safety features, primarily for the city, but in part for the developer. For example, approval of a plat here for their proposed new development. If that's not going to get approved and you're the developer, you really probably don't want to buy this site, do you? And so it's important for us to have thought through what I won't call them the paranoias, but the concerns that you'd have in the pit of your stomach before you closed. And we want to make sure both parties addressed all of those. So.
Councilor Larson.
Questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, if you wouldn't mind walking us through what happens to this parcel, this piece of property we're at today includes the park, right? And how does that, what happens there? I believe there's an obligation to Jefferson County with that land. Could you walk us through how that works?
Sure. This site is about 9 acres. About 4.5 of it is parking lot and a municipal building, and 4 acres is the park. That will have to stay unless the Jefferson County Open Space approves a reverter transfer, which they don't do much anymore. They did recently with us on our town center park. They allowed us to move that to the green on 38th Avenue. It's not their favorite thing anymore. But the developer, E5X, they understand that it would have to stay, and I think it's, I think Jefferson County Open Space they might work with the developer to, maybe it doesn't stay in the exact same shape. Maybe it could be moved around a little bit, and it'd have to stay probably about the same acreage. So, there'd be developments, private developments anywhere that is not encumbered by the open space park, or the same acreage.
Do we have any other questions? All right, we can go back to the presentation.
Excellent. Well, this is where I introduce Lizzie. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. So this next section, we will dive into the numbers. So you've had a look at these already in the Anderson Hollis presentation, so thank you, team, for going through that in detail. I will say we have on this page hard construction costs, soft costs, and contingency like they had. We have a placeholder for demolition and environmental. That's really a nod to the ongoing negotiations and finalization of that document.
Now, our job is to help you uncover every penny that's hidden under every stone, and get really creative on the opportunities for financing, not only through a sales tax and a mill levy tax, but also through creative financing structures, alternative funding sources like historic preservation or other grants, green incentives, naming, philanthropy, maintenance and operations savings. We're going to dive in and jump and really look at everything so that we make sure that we're funding this efficiently. And did I mention use tax? That's a big one also. Before I click to this next slide, what we did on these next two slides, which you have in your packet, is an analysis of just a really basic, what are we talking about in terms of rough order of magnitude for sales tax and mill levy. So before I flip to that, I just want to caveat that, this is the blunt force tool right now, that we're just looking at order of magnitude. This is assuming a single debt issuance, not really getting into the efficiency of structure. And what is shown on this page is assuming that we fund the whole project for the Civic Center through a single type of revenue. So flipping to the next slide, starting with the sales tax analysis, if we look at the peak of the project budget, which is around 132 million, how does that align with imposing a sales tax based on Wheat Ridge's current 1.1 billion in annual taxable sales? So to fund that 132 million, you'd likely need to impose a 0.75% or 0.75% or 1% sales tax, somewhere in that range. Obviously, that's the peak for this potential project where, a lot of the work that we're gonna start on now is really diving in and saying, how can those costs come down? How can we think through other sources of funding so that it's not all sitting inside the sales tax burden? The next slide takes a look at that same analysis, but contemplating imposing a mill levy to fund that. So equivalent for 850 million of Wheat Ridge's assessed value. This would require about a 10 to 12.5 mill levy that would be new and additional to the current existing mill levy. I'll repeat again, this is really rough order of magnitude. It's just, starting to throw darts on a page so that we can start to just wrap our minds around what are we talking about? What are the potential order of magnitude for something that would require a ballot initiative? And then, really the work to do here is to continue to vet this. There's the April 9th workshop, which is scheduled, and there'll be time to continue to discuss this in more detail. But also just dive into those other creative sources of funding that we can use to drive this number lower. If there are any questions, happy to answer. If not, I will hand it back over to Patrick to talk about next steps.
Any questions on that very high level? Again, we have the April 11th workshop. Both Lizzie and Mark will be there to help us through this conversation of how we can create a financial plan for this. As Lizzie mentioned, a potential fairly large revenue source, we believe, will be use tax that's going to be generated off the construction of new houses on the Lutheran campus. We're estimating anywhere between 10 and 15 million, I think, right now. So that could potentially go towards this project, and that would lower the that graph that Lizzie just showed on how much sales tax would be needed. So we're going to be looking at all those things, but tonight, we're just looking for direction on the land exchange agreement. If you had any more questions on that, we do have it scheduled, I believe, for March 23rd for approval of council. And as you heard tonight, especially from Mr. Dahl, there's many contingencies in it. We're not asking you to sign on the dotted line necessarily on March 23rd. We'll have to go through a lot of steps before you have to make that hard decision when you do need to sign on the dotted line. So you already gave us direction on the design process. The next thing we're asking for tonight is moving forward on the land exchange agreement. And then we'll start April 11th talking about a financial plan.
Do we have any other questions or comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem Hulting.
Thanks. Not really a question, but just sort of setting the stage that I think that, first of all, I just really want to thank everyone. I know you all sat through a long meeting before this. I really want to thank E5X for being in the room. I think this is the first time you've been here since you're formally acquired the property. So congratulations. And I have sort of how it all comes together questions that are probably better addressed when we're in the workshop. Because I think it's complicated and I think there's going to be a lot of like, well, if we do this, if we do that. So I just kind of want to recognize that the foundational understanding of the work that's been done to date and for us to start framing our thinking around moving forward steps is helpful, but there's a lot of moving pieces and none of them are cheap. None of them are simple, and they're all important. So I just don't have a specific question, but I know on April 11th, there's going to be a lot of dialogue about, you know, what are some of the critical pathways for making decisions in which we're committing a certain amount of funding that, like, you know, doesn't come back to us. And so how are we really mitigating our own risk on our expenditures on this project before having known income is like one of my, just registering one of the things I'm going to want to make sure that I understand and we're talking through on the 11th. But thank you. The presentations were fantastic. I don't have questions.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none. Looks like we have three.
I think primarily right now is I think we received consensus on everything else. Then the next consensus we're looking for this evening is to move forward with the land exchange agreement as was described tonight. And again, that will come back on March 23rd.
Okay, thank you. Do we have consensus to move forward with the land exchange? We do. Okay, thank you. We have no other items. Mr. Goff, do you have
That's it.
anything else?
Mr. Jerry, anybody, staff? E5X, did you want to say anything?
He sold it, he doesn't want to buy it back. Okay. All right, fantastic. Well, we will go ahead and adjourn our special study session. We will not be here next week. Most of us will be in Washington, D.C., so we'll be back here on the 23rd, I believe it is. Is that right, Mr. Goff? All right. Fantastic. Have a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you.